Hey everybody, this is a 3-hour compilation of various NPC-related pointless top 10s I've made over the years, so enjoy! Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Pointless Top 10, a show where I make top 10 lists of pointless things. Why are we flying by pointless statue in Booty Bay? Because inside pointless things are treasure. Let's begin. 10. Number 10 is Captain Crick Wrench Nozzle and the crew that commands the Maiden's Fancy, which is the boat that sails between Ratchet and Booty Bay. And when you talk to Captain Crick, he says, "Hey kid, you're aboard the Maiden's Fancy. The name's Captain Wrench Nozzle, and you've got the privilege of sailing on the pride of the Blackwater Raiders. The blood sail don't come near us, not with my sharp crew and the large amounts of gunpowder in the hold. Insurance, you know." And you've got quite a few people on the crew. You've got First Mate Masker, who is the human on board. You've also got Navigator Tari, who is usually navigating the ship, a troll, and then you've got Engineer Torque Spindle, who is an engineer goblin, and then there's Galley Chief Steelbelly, who is a dwarf that's also the ship's cook, and he carries around a big piece of meat and a hatchet. And then there's obviously all the other goblin crew members, and then most importantly, there's Treasure the Parrot, who belongs to Captain Crick and flies around the ship, apparently annoying all of the members of the Maiden's Fancy except the captain. But yeah, a lot of us take the boat between Ratchet and Booty Bay and have done so for years and just kind of assume that it works. But you know what? There's a hard-working crew behind that ship, and so that's why the Maiden's Fancy crew is number 10. 9. Number 9 is Senior Peon 2, and Senior Peon 2 is an assistant of Skagit, and Skagit is a goblin assistant of Monty Gaslow, so we have an assistant of an assistant, and these two are located in your garrison if you're Horde. And there's a few reasons that I really like Senior Peon 2. Number 1 is that it implies that there was a Senior Peon 1 who either died on the job or just, I don't know what happened to him, but he's gone now. And that he is wearing an insane outfit. He has got like some crazy shoulder pads with metal on, or they're not even shoulder pads, it's like a back piece, and then he's got on these goggles, and he's just carrying big things of lumber. And so I'm really impressed that he just stands here in the garrison day and night holding these logs, and he just doesn't get tired, dude. He just constantly holds them. You would think he'd put them down or something, but no, he's just always holding these logs. They may as well be part of it. And so even though Senior Peon 2 is just stuck in the garrison holding logs, I hope one day he gets to graduate to a higher ranking position where maybe he's in charge and then he gets assistance, or maybe he'll just get replaced by Senior Peon 3, I don't know. But either way, that's why Senior Peon 2 is number 9. 8. Number 8 are all of the NPCs holding open portals to Tol Barad, and that goes for both Alliance and Horde, because they are both in Orgrimmar and Stormwind. And back a while ago, I made a pointless top 10 worst jobs in World of Warcraft, and one of the jobs on that list was people that hold open portals, because obviously you just stand around holding open a portal. I don't know if you get any breaks. Maybe they have rotations where different people have to rotate in to hold open the portal, but I never really see that happening, so they're just always channeling portals for everybody to take. And so that got me to thinking, what would be the worst portal you would have to hold open? And there's quite a few of them, but I thought that holding open the Tol Barad portals would just be one of the worst jobs, because not only do very few people actually use your portals, but most people just queue for Tol Barad anyway if they wanted to do it, and I don't really know anybody that's actually queuing for Tol Barad. But you know what? If somebody wants to go get their Tol Barad rewards, or if they want to just walk around Tol Barad, they have the option thanks to these hard-working NPCs holding open these portals, and so that's why they're number 8. 7. Number 7 is Sweepy Mo, and Sweepy Mo is a hobgoblin that runs around the Undermine with a broom, sweeping, hence the name Sweepy Mo. And I think people do not give this guy enough credit. Like, he is here day and night, running around with his broom, making sure that the streets of Undermine are clean and, you know, safe to run around. Nobody's gonna be slipping on any dirt or anything, right? Like, we just had the big Diablo event. I'm sure there's a bunch of coins scattered all over. He was probably really busy during that event. And it's just nice that we have somebody making sure the streets are clean. In fact, Sweepy Mo is so dedicated to his craft of making sure the streets are clean. He'll even clean you off the streets. If you stand in front of him, he'll just bump into you and get you out of the way. He's like, "Oh, I'm sweeping here." And then he just sweeps you out of the way, because you know what? Sweepy Mo doesn't have time for that. He's got to keep sweeping, and if you're in the way, he's getting you out of the way. And so yeah, Sweepy Mo is fantastic. Great guy, keeping the streets of Undermine clean, and that's why he's number 7. 6. Number 6 are Brog Huntsworn and this random Warspear peon located in Ashran. And these two are pretty much right next to each other, but Brog Huntsworn is carving a cleft hoof, but he's doing so in maybe the slowest animation I have ever seen for somebody carving something. He's just like, whoosh, like, I don't know why he's going so slowly. Like, maybe he's just taking his time and being patient, you know? Maybe he's just trying to do the best job possible. And if that's the case, I truly do appreciate that. Meanwhile, then we have this random war spear peon who is chopping wood without an axe. And there's a lot of questions I have here. Number one is he actually chopping the wood, or does he just think he's chopping the wood, right? Like, he might be using a magical invisible axe for all we know, but he might just be doing nothing. Maybe he's gotten one too many concussions or injuries from working around these logs. Maybe he's got bumped in the head by the logs or something, and now he's just like, I think I'm chopping wood, and everyone's like, dude, what's that guy doing? But you know what? I still appreciate his effort, and that's why Brog Huntsworn and the War Spear Peon are number 6. 5. Number 5 are the Forge Ground Machine Smiths located at the Forge Grounds. And they are Earthen, who are working at the Forge Grounds, which serves as the profession quarter of Dornegal. And what I think is so cool about the Forge Ground Machine Smiths is they are just keeping everything going. Like, when you look at them, they are, you know, doing some sort of magic with like a little fireball above their head, or they're actually pulling the chains with magic. Like, these people are super underappreciated. Like, they are keeping this entire building going. This entire forge is powered by these machine smiths. And even when I was trying to find more information about them online, there's like absolutely nothing. They had other types of machine smiths, but all I found is that they have the ability Molten Chain, which is the ability that they're doing that you can see right there. But just overall, I think these guys are extremely underappreciated. You know, they're keeping everything going. People just fly by them. They're like, they're just doing their job. But you know what? Without them, this wouldn't be running. And so I think that's pretty cool. So that's why the Forge Ground Machine Smiths are number 5. 4. Number 4 is Theldurin the Lost, and you may know Theldurin from the quest The Dwarf Who Punched Deathwing, because he is also the dwarf that punched Deathwing. But before he did that, Theldurin was once a member of the Twilight's Hammer, but he lost his mind and scorned their teachings. Before he fled from them, he stole the Scroll of Mizrael to keep them from freeing the insane elemental Mizrael. The Twilight's Hammer couldn't catch him, and it's assumed that he hides in the Badlands going insane. And in the Badlands, the enraged Earth Elementals actually stole the scroll from Theldurin, tore it up, and then fight over the fragments. Then, after the Cataclysm, he's no longer insane and pretty much tells adventures of the time he punched Deathwing, and then his friends are also like, yeah, we also beat up Deathwing by, like, the gnome says he found him in the sun and, like, pulled him out of the sun and burned his hands and then threw him over to Kalimdor, and then his other friend Martek the Exiled was like, I was on my motorcycle and I went and knife fought Deathwing. So like, it's just all pretty insane. I actually talk more about it in NPCs you should know about in World of Warcraft. But I just love how crazy his story is, right? Like, he was part of the Twilight's Hammer, then he lost his mind, he ran away, he stole a scroll, he got lost out here, and then he like fought Deathwing with all his friends. And I truly appreciate those types of NPCs in World of Warcraft, and so that's why he's number 4. 3. Number 3 is Lock the Rock, and Lock the Rock is a dire troll located in the Royal Treasury in the Great Seal of Dazar'alor. And Lock the Rock is in charge of vault security, hence why he has the vault security title, so he's making sure that nobody steals from the bank. And if you talk to him, he says, the last gang that tried to rob this vault is out in Vol'dun now, just like everyone else who's tried. And this actually made me realize that there's not much bank security in World of Warcraft. Like, you can go to a lot of different banks throughout World of Warcraft, and none of them really have a dedicated bank vault security guy. Like, maybe there's one or two others. I haven't actually looked around, but all of the banks that I visited recently or paid attention to, like, there's no security. But you know what? In the Great Seal in Dazar'alor, they got Lock the Rock. He's got a great name, and he's ready to protect your bank. Even though not many people go to this bank anymore. There's probably still some. I see people here and there, but this is where you need to do your banking because you got Lock the Rock protecting everything in there. And that's why Lock the Rock is number 3. 2. Number 2 are the NPCs atop the Grand Expedition Yak, which are Cousin Slowhands and Mystic Birdhat. And the reason I picked them is because these are 2 NPCs that I think have been clicked on more than anyone in World of Warcraft's entire history. Like, the amount of people that just mount up onto their yak for repairs, buying reagents, transmogging. Like, it has to put them up there amongst the most clicked on NPCs of all time. And even if you yourself don't have the mount, which I think pretty much everybody does, somebody else is probably using the mount, and you've probably clicked on the NPCs on their mount. They also have some fantastic quotes, such as, maybe you could do a barrel roll. I feel like a blood sausage. I'm just a pathetic creature of meat and brew. I was going to have a party and invite Mystic Birdhat, but you dismissed him. Your yak is in another stable, and a minute is all I need. Wait, that came out all wrong. So yeah, the next time you bust out your Grand Expedition Yak, thank Cousin Slowhands and Mystic Bird Hat for being there, and that's why they're number 2. And number 1 is Kaja, and Kaja is a female Tauren that is a guns and ammo merchant located right next to the auction house in classic Orgrimmar. And the reason I put her at number 1 is because I feel like she truly is the most underappreciated NPC in the history of World of Warcraft. Like, she was right there whenever you needed to repair your gear, she was right there whenever you needed to sell stuff out of your bags. Like, she was usually the first go-to NPC for anything that required selling stuff or repairing stuff, which in classic World of Warcraft happened quite a lot. And you didn't have the ability to just fly around all over and just find random NPCs to sell stuff to. Like, usually you went to the auction house, then you'd come out of the auction house and be like, I gotta sell some stuff, or I gotta repair. And guess who was right there waiting to help you out? It was Kaja. And so I'm sure she was happy with the spot she got right next to the auction house, being like, oh man, I'm gonna sell a bunch of ammo and guns for everybody. Turns out she just ended up buying a bunch of random stuff from people and repairing armor. But either way, that's why Kaja is number 1. Number 10 are the Stonard War Drummers, and the War Drummers are Kodo riders fighting at the Bloodmire in the Swamp of Sorrows. And I'm pretty sure these are references to the Kodo beasts from Warcraft 3 because number 1, they look very similar to them, and number 2, those Kodo beasts did have war drum auras on them. Although I will say, it doesn't look like he's playing the drums very well. I mean, you can't actually hear him playing the drums, number 1. You would think they'd have like a little doom, doom, doom beat audio file to him or something, I don't know, but more importantly, he's not actually hitting the drums. He's hitting the saddle that he's riding the Kodo on. And it's not just him, it is literally all of the Stonard War Drummers marching around here just banging on the saddle of their Kodo, which I get it, that's the way it's animated. It's not like some of them are hitting the drum and some are just hitting the saddle. I also think it's funny to imagine them not knowing that they're supposed to hit the drums. Maybe they think the drums are just some decoration and they're like, all right, let's hit the drum. And they think the saddle is the instrument that they're riding on. Like, I have no idea. They're just dumb orcs being like, oh, you hit saddle. But no matter what the case is, I think they're pretty cool. And so that's why the Stonard War Drummers are number 10. Number 9 are the harp players located in Suramar and Oribos. And I learned while making this that the harp actually dates back over 5,000 years with origins in Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt. In fact, it's believed that it was used by priests and priestesses to communicate with the gods. Now, we do have music for both of these harp players that plays in-game. So we'll start with the Suramar music. So here we go, some Suramar harp music. And then here's the Oribos music. I will say, I think I like Suramar a bit more just because you have the water and it's very relaxing, and then you go to Oribos and it feels like they have a weird background noise there, which, you know, it's Oribos, that doesn't surprise me, but it's almost like somebody left a microphone too close to the sound system and you start getting that like that weird audible hum. But you know what? They're both playing the harp in the way that they know and enjoy. Plus, at least they got some in-game audio. That's cool. I always enjoy when they do that. So that's why the harp players are number 9. Number 8 is a whole list of bards in World of Warcraft, because there's a lot of bards in World of Warcraft. So the ones I picked out were the Hired Bard in the Rogue Class Hall, the Russell Brower Bard, which is a reference to Russell Brower, the Borealis Bard, who is Jay the Bard, and Andrea Toyas, a bard in the Vale of Eternal Blossoms. So let's start out with Jay the Bard, who is the winner of the 2017 BlizzCon contest and is also a fellow YouTuber and streamer. And this is a reference to him, and he's got a really cool NPC playing in a really cozy location. Then we have the Hired Bard in the Chamber of Shadows in the Rogue Class Hall, and he actually plays some music we can listen to. So there you go, a little bit of that. And listen, it's not much, but we got a lot of bards and a lot of musical NPCs to get through, all right? And then we have Russell Brower, who pretty much composed all of World of Warcraft's amazing music back in the day, so obviously he deserves a reference, and it almost kind of looks like him, actually. And then we have Andrea Toyas, a Pandaren bard that is a reference to the Blizzard casting and voice director, Andrea Toyas. Although I will say, I think she is playing this lute backwards. I don't know what happened, but I think it used to be the other way around, and now it just looks like she's playing it one way, but it's not the correct way. But You know what? It makes it funnier and greater for Pointless Top 10. And so, yeah, we got a great selection of bards. There's actually a lot more bards in the game, but these were some of my favorites. And so that's why they're number 8. 7. Number 7 is Grenja, and Grenja is a member of the Gold Tusk gang at the Gold Tusk Inn in Vol'dun. And Grenja is actually the inn's resident bard, so you might be like, Crendor, why didn't you put Grenja with all the other bards? Well, that's because Grenja exclusively plays drums because she likes smashing things. And so unlike all the other bards who are just standing around playing their lute, Grenja is just like, nah, dude, we're going with drums. And if you've seen some other Pointless Top 10s, you might be thinking, Crendor, haven't you mentioned this before? And I did. I actually mentioned Ranka in Pointless Top 10 Innkeepers, and there's a whole big quest line, and at first you can't actually see Grenja, but then you drink some potion and you can see her as well as all of his other ghost friends. You go check out Top 10 Innkeepers if you want to learn more about that. But for this episode, we're just talking about Grenja, and Grenja doesn't actually get any audible music in here, so that's unfortunate. I'd be curious to see what their drumming sounds like, but you know what? That's fine with me. They're still really cool, and that's why Grenja is number 7. 6. Number 6 are the Reventusk Drummers, and these are forest trolls located in Reventusk Village in the Hinterlands. And if you have ever played a Horde character dating all the way back to classic WoW, you probably remember these drummers, because these have been in the game since actual vanilla WoW, and they just are at the top of Reventusk Village at the inn, drumming away. And they actually do have some audio, so let's hear some drumming. So there we go. That's some drumming from the Reventusk drummers. But one thing I never noticed is the actual drum has this big metallic troll head on it. I didn't even realize it until I made this video. And so yeah, whenever I think of NPCs playing music in World of Warcraft, I always think of these drummers in the Hinterlands. And that's why I had to put them on the list. And so that's why the Reventusk drummers are number 6. 5. Number 5 is Mordresh Fireeye, and Mordresh is an elite skeleton found in the Razorfen Downs, and he actually used to be an orc shaman. If you read through his dungeon journal entry, it says, through necromantic magic, Death Speaker Blackthorn was able to rekindle the flames of Mordresh Fireeye's soul, returning him to undeath. As a former shaman, Mordresh has exerted his twisted control over the elements. He burns and scorches all those who threaten the Death Speaker's works. And he shouts out quotes like, soon Aminar will return. Our conquest of Kalimdor begins and nothing will survive our wrath. But aside from all that, he's just rocking out on top of this big pile of skulls. There's like fire going off behind him, and then there's a bunch of skeletons rocking out, and they're like, yeah. Also, it is pretty funny because they do have orc shaman skeleton models available after Warlords of Draenor, but they've just kept him as a male Forsaken. But it's probably just too much effort to go back and actually reanimate and change everything, so I don't blame him for it, but it is pretty funny. But either way, that's why Mordresh Fireeye is number 5. 4. Number 4 are the Grummels playing their flutes in the Kunlai Summit, and the Whistler playing his flute in the Zaralek Cavern. And I know whenever I see these Grummels, I always think of the Lucky Do Rap. I'm sure many people do as well, because that's like one of my most popular videos I've ever made ever. But then there's also the Whistler, who's this Niffin located in the Zaralek Cavern that is somehow holding onto his flute with his giant nails, or I don't know how he's holding on to that, but he's just whistling along on his flute and everybody's dancing all around him and they're just having a great time. Actually, I don't even know how he's covering the holes. Like, he doesn't have fingers to cover the holes, but he still do it. This man is talented. I'm gonna tell you right now, people are underrating the Whistler. He's got no comments on Wowhead. He is going extremely underappreciated. Give some credit to the Whistler. And then we have the Grummels, who are also playing their flutes, although they have gloves on, so maybe it's harder to cover the holes with the gloves, so also pretty talented. Plus, we're up in the mountains, probably harder to have a lot of oxygen to play with up here, so like, I don't know. I think both these are very talented. I wanted to combine them because they're both just tiny creatures playing flutes. So somebody's probably going to be like, Crendor, that's not a flute. That's a blah, 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 or whatever. Like, I don't care. It's a flute. So that's why they're number 4. 3. Number 3 is Grol Grol, and Grol Grol is a Hosen located in the Kunlai Summit all the way up north in this little secret cave. And Grol Grol is definitely a reference to Dave Grohl, who is in Nirvana and the Foo Fighters. And Grol Grol is actually awesome. I feel like I'm going crazy saying Grol Grol. Grol Grol, Grol Grol. He's running around just smashing all these drums in this cave. He is like actually insane. He is just going, well, you can even hear his music. So here we go. Here's some Grol Grol music. And so there we go. Not the greatest of drum beats, I would say, but you know, he's doing it. He's making his own music. That's all that matters, right? I mean, I can't be one to talk. I'm literally making a video about NPCs playing music in World of Warcraft. If anything, that's the equivalent of what Grol is playing on the drums right now. So anyway, that's why Grol is number 3. Number 2 are the bands located on the Dark Moon Island, which are the Elite Tauren Chieftain and the Blight Boar. And I'm sure many of you already know who the Elite Tauren Chieftain is, as they originated as a band of Blizzard employees doing cover songs and eventually graduated to performing their own unique songs, including one that they perform in the game, which is called Power of the Horde. I would play it here in this video, but I'm not sure if it's going to get a copyright strike, so you can go listen to it in-game, or you can look it up on YouTube. And then the Blight Boar are the Forsaken death metal band at the Dark Moon Fair, playing at the Cauldron of Rock in the eastern part of Dark Moon Island. And their enemy is the Death Metal Knight, and their fans are known as Blightheads, and so you have to defeat the Death Metal Knight as the band is playing, and it's actually a really cool atmosphere and a pretty tricky boss fight. I don't know if they nerfed it, but it used to be a tricky boss fight at least, and you have all these banshees going around. It's really cool. And so yeah, I had to put these on the list because these are probably the biggest productions of NPCs playing music in World of Warcraft, and so that's why I put them at number 2. And number 1 is Hard Rog and the Drogbar. And you might be like, Crendor, how are the ones you just mentioned not number 1 if they're the biggest productions? Well, because this is the best production in World of Warcraft. This is Hard Rog and his Drogbar, Bop Rule, Tink Rule, and Clomp Rule. And they are located in the Stone Dark Grotto in High Mountain. And they are quite literally playing rock music. They are hitting on the rocks, and here's some unbelievable audio of their in-game music. And so I think you can see why I put this at number 1. It's a great goof. Hard Rog is, I imagine, hard rock. That's what it's supposed to be, and they're literally playing rock music. Like, how can you not put literal rock music at number 1? Plus, look at that. They all got some great headpieces on. It's just a phenomenal experience. So that's why Hard Rog and the Drogbar are number 1. Number 10 is Brother Daniel, and Brother Daniel is a human general goods vendor located in Northshire Valley in Elwyn Forest. He can be found next to his wagon holding a big loaf of bread, and funnily enough, when the Northshire Valley was attacked by the forces of Count Clessington, which I believe was for the Human Heritage Armor Quest, Daniel remained at his usual spot and was in a fighting position with a hunk of bread in hand. So this dude was ready to throw down with his hunk of bread. And funnily enough, again, his tough hunk of bread is available for sale. He sells 5 of them. He also has spring water, rough arrows, light shots, crude throwing axes, and light throwing knives. You know, Brother Daniel, he's not completely bald, right? He's got the like side back of the head cut going on, but I think Brother Daniel's a pretty well-known bald NPC. I mean, he's in the human starting area, so most people that make humans have seen him before. They've probably bought some water or hunks of bread from him. Pretty notable bald NPC, and that's why he's number 10. Number 9 is Traveling Warrior, and Traveling Warrior is an orc in Orgrimmar, which I know there's a lot of orcs in Orgrimmar, but this guy is specifically a reference to Kratos from God of War. And I legit didn't even know he was in the game until I was like walking around and I was like, what? That's an orc I've never seen. And he's next to Traveling Sun, and they have a bunch of dialogue where they talk about war, they talk about the burning of Teldrassil, and then his son's just like, Dad, why do the trees burn? And then he's like, boy, that's war or something. That's pretty much what it is. And then he's just like, is war bad? And he's like, war is war. And then, you know, you go look at the dialogue if you want. I really just summed it up for you. You really don't have to. But, I mean, this is a pretty notable NPC in Orgrimmar. I never even realized he was there. So maybe, to me, he wasn't that notable. But when I found him, I was like, what? Apparently he did get added in Battle for Azeroth, and he's just chilling in the Valley of Wisdom, talking to Traveling Sun. There are a lot of bald orcs in the game, but I thought this was a good one because, you know, it's kind of pointless, so it fits the theme of this series, and it might not be as well known to a lot of people as some of the other orcs, so I was like, hey, you know what? I think he can make the list. Plus, he's pretty bald, and he's got a great beard, so just for the beard alone, he should make this list, and that's why Traveling Warrior / Kratos Orc is number 9. Number 8 is Foreman Oslo, and Foreman Oslo is a human quest giver located near the bridge in Lakeshire in the Red Ridge Mountains. And he has terrible luck. Like, this dude has everything going bad for him. He once had his tools being delivered from Goldshire on a wagon, but the orcs destroyed the Everstill Bridge, and then the tools were put on a boat to get across the lake to Lakeshire, but then a catapult hit the boat, and then he wanted to repair the bridge, but his shipment of materials was stolen by gnolls. Like, everything that can go wrong goes wrong for this guy. But in Cataclysm, Oslo becomes trapped under a huge boulder which had fallen just north of the bridge. 6 bridge workers attempt to remove the boulder but are not successful, and there's a big quest line where you have to take an Etten, and the Etten gets it off, all this stuff. But currently, from what I've seen, it's glitched out. And it just looks like everyone's dancing around his crushed body, even though there's nothing crushing him, but there is. It's so weird. And there's like this other dude who's just sitting there watching it like, yep, hey, he's crushed all right. It's really weird, you know, and I feel bad for Foreman Oslo, right? Like, this dude is just trying to help. He's trying to repair the bridge. He's trying to fix people's stuff, and he just keeps having the worst possible luck. But you know what? Here's some good luck for you. You get to be number 8 on my pointless top 10 list. 7. Number 7 is Frederick Kalston, and Frederick Kalston is a human quest giver located at the top of the Light's Shield Tower in the Eastern Plaguelands. He introduced various sea life to the Infectus Scar in the hopes of creating a source of fresh food for the Argent Crusade from within the Plaguelands. But he did not anticipate that some of the fish would turn out to be predators and start eating others. He then asked adventurers to save some of the smaller creatures from the lake before they're wiped out. And it seems likely that he's related to Cedric Kalston, who is a Forsaken quest giver who resides on the 2nd floor of the Kalston estate in Tirisful Glades. And Cedric also shows a fascination for sea life and wears similar clothing. So he's actually got a cool little backstory. He's a cool NPC, but let's talk about the main thing here. This guy is bald. Very powerful bald head. He's got the beard goatee stuff going on. So just the combo of all that, right? The super bald head, the goatee, the weird fish scientist lore. That's good enough for me to put him at number 7. 6. Number 6 is Guard Hammond, and Guard Hammond is a human guard located in the Champions Hall in Stormwind City. And due to his baldness and proximity with Lieutenant Carter, Lieutenant Jack Spring, Captain O'Neill, and Sergeant Major Clate, all references to Stargate SG-1, Guard Hammond is most likely a reference to General Hammond of the same series. So, he is a Stargate 1 reference. I never actually watched Stargate 1, so I probably said one of those names wrong, and some Stargate nerd's gonna be like, actually, it's Sergeant Major Clatty instead of Clate. I don't know. I don't care. I did, however, see the original Stargate movie from 1994 just the other week, and that was a fun experience. All I know is this guy is a reference, and he's bald. And unlike all the other NPCs we've seen so far, he is super bald, right? He's got no goatee, facial hair. He doesn't have the hair in the back. He is just super bald. And so there's really nothing else. And I was like, you know, that's probably good for a number 6 on the list. And so that's why Guard Hammond is number 6. 5. Number 5 is Priestess Alunza, and Priestess Alunza is a Zandalari troll located at the Shimmering Pinnacle in Atal Dazar. And according to the Dungeon Journal, as a fanatical defender of Atal Dazar's golden sanctum, Priestess Alunza has come to cleanse the temple of all corruption at any cost. The weird part was this is all I could find on her. I was like, there's got to be some crazy lore behind Priestess Alunza, right? So I was looking into it, but the big thing was everyone was like, why are we even killing her, right? Why do we have to kill Priestess Alunza? I thought she was here to cleanse the temple. But the best answer I saw to that was, at this point in the story, none of us are really supposed to be in Atal Dazar to begin with. As far as she's concerned, with all the shit going on, we might as well be the source of the corruption or the insurgents sent to cause trouble. So I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. I don't know if that's what Blizzard thought of, but it sounds good enough for me. But the main point here is Priestess Alunza is actually really cool. Probably one of the coolest bald NPCs in the game. She has a bunch of cool abilities like Spirit Gold, Corrupted Gold, Molten Gold, Transfusion, Tainted Blood. Plus, she looks really cool doing her big ritual thing up at the altar with all the orbs and stuff flying around. So I was like, yo, Priestess Alunza, you gotta be on the list. And that's why she's number 5. 4. Number 4 is Thief Catcher Far Mountain, and Thief Catcher Far Mountain is one of 3 thief catchers that are 3 named elite alliance guards in Ironforge that patrol the city. They can detect stealth enemies, and upon discovering one, will attack it, alerting the city to its presence. Their patrol is on a set route that takes them throughout the city of Ironforge. If a player zooms in on one of these NPCs as they pass, a pair of cat's eye ultra goggles is clearly visibly being worn on their heads, most likely to aid in their stealth detection capabilities. But here's the thing. This dude looks awesome. I legit thought this got added in Cataclysm, but I guess this has been a thing since like patch 1.3 in 2005. He also may be related to Demnul Far Mountain in Ironforge, Jonavera Far Mountain in Ultrag Valley, and Savalbrad Far Mountain in Ultrag Valley. What names, right? Although we don't actually know his true name. Maybe his name is Thief Catcher, which is like, they're like, dude, you really need to become a Thief Catcher if your name's Thief Catcher. And he's like, yeah, all right. But this dude, like, this is a badass dwarf, man. He just walks around. He's just like, yeah, you know what I am. I'm a thief catcher. I'm looking for thieves. He's just strutting his stuff, and he's bald. So, I mean, to be fair, it's actually hard to find some bald dwarves. I was looking all around, and then I just stumbled across this guy in Ironforge, and I was like, dude, this guy's an awesome bald dwarf. He kind of reminds me of, like, one of the Men in Black, you know? Except he's in red, and he's carrying axes. But he's pretty cool, and that's why Thief Catcher Far Mountain is number 4. Number 3 is Samir, and Samir is somebody who has appeared in pretty much half the expansions of World of Warcraft. He is an adventurer who wanders Azeroth with his group, and as such, he appears in several zones. Samir used to be a level 70 blacksmithing vendor located in the Hatchet Hills in the Blood Elven territory of the Ghostlands, in the camp right outside Zulaman. He also has this orc that's standing uncomfortably close to him carrying a giant mallet, and I don't know why. He was also in Wrath of the Lich King, and he was actually in the same pack that was with Bud Nedrek, who was in another Pointless Top 10 Weirdest NPCs. I'll put that up in the cards if you want to go check that out. In Cataclysm, his boat to Vazir was shipwrecked, and you end up rescuing him, and then he provides blacksmithing services at Smuggler's Scar and Kelpthar Forest. He was in Battle for Azeroth in the Vision of the Twisting Sands, and he was at the Uldum entrance. And Samir really is another super bald guy, right? He's bald, he's got no facial hair, but unlike Guard Hammond, where he's just a guy chilling in Stormwind, Samir has been all over the place. And so I was like, hey, you know what? Samir is a bald adventurer. He's got his sword and shield. He's going all over. He's also jacked out of his mind. He's got like a 12-pack. Look at him, dude. He deserves to be number 3. Number 2 is Kael'thas, and Kael'thas might not even be considered an NPC, I guess. He'd just be a boss, but I guess a boss can be an NPC, because I've already included a dungeon boss on this list, because technically it is a player character that isn't controlled by a human. I don't know, it doesn't matter. He's number 2, and you might say, Crendor, he's got hair. Well, back in patch 8.0.1, Kael'thas became bald. Here's a picture, you can see it for yourself. Look at that. Kael'thas is bald. Now, I don't know when they actually fixed it and gave him hair again, but some people might be like, oh, well, he's not bald anymore. Well, you don't know that. He might be wearing a wig. In 8.01, I think Blizzard might have just taken away his hair, and he just got so mad, so upset that he had to go get a wig, and now he's just wearing a wig. You can't tell me that Sindori Blood Elf Magic or whatever it is can't craft some sort of blonde wig, right? Somebody else had a theory that the non-HD character models were removed in 8.0, and that probably messed with his model or something. But I think they just got rid of his hair, and then he became bald. And now he's still bald, but he hides it pretty well. That's why Kael'thas is number 2. And number 1 is one that I did not expect to be number 1. It is Boots, the goblin drink vendor at Area 52 in Netherstorm, and he is Boom's master mixologist. He sells a variety of alcohols and non-alcoholic drinks, and he says, "What's your pleasure? Pull up a seat and knock one back. I'm Boots, lead mixologist for Boom and bartender extraordinaire. If it's got a kick, old Boots can give it to you." So Boots then tells you he's been making a good living selling drinks to booze hounds, but he wants something more, and he wants to make the most explosive rocket fuel ever. And it turns out you help him do just that, and he explodes. Boots says, "Woot, here we go. Uh-oh." And then he explodes, and then the off-duty engineer says, "Yikes, someone call the fire marshal. Medic, is there a doctor in the house?" And then the doctor's like, "I'm a doctor, what's the problem?" Then he's like, "Somebody's got to get those fires out so I can get in there and save that goblin." And then Bill says, "Someone called?" And then Doc says, "Right, let me in there. Everyone clear." And then they shock Boots back to life, and he's okay. And then he says, "Back to the drawing board on that rocket fuel." And that's that. That's the quest. I forgot that this quest even existed. I mainly found this because I was going to look at Kael'thas and see how bald he was, but he wasn't. And then I was like, wait, is that a bald goblin drink vendor? And then I read up on this quest and I was like, dude, this is unbelievable. And then after a while, I was like, you know what? I'm going to put this at number 1. And that's why Boots is number 1. 10. Number 10 is Dungar Long Drink, and Dungar Long Drink is the human Flightmaster located in the Griffin Roost in Stormwind City. And the reason I put him on this list is not just because it's like, oh, he's the big Flightmaster in Stormwind. It's because I think he was supposed to be a dwarf. That, or he might have a dwarven father, because his last name is Long Drink, and if you talk to him, he says, "These great beasts know paths that ye can't find on foot. They'll get ye there fast and maybe show ye something new at the same time." He also says, "Where is it ye would like to go, lad/lass? For just a few coin, my griffins can get ye there faster than even the swiftest horse." But it's also kind of funny because a lot of dwarves are like, "Keep your feet on the ground." And yet he's the one that's helping you to get your feet off the ground, quite literally. But either way, whether he's part dwarf or was supposed to be a dwarf, whatever it is, I think it's pretty fun and a cool little piece of lore to think about. So that's why Dungar Long Drink is number 10. 9. Number 9 is a Tauren Flightmaster named Amelia Earhart located at Spinebreaker Post in the Hellfire Peninsula, and it is clearly a reference to Amelia Earhart, which I'd like to bring up a comment I saw on the Wowhead article for Amelia Earhart from 2008, where somebody said, "LOL, she looks nothing like Amelia Earhart, but it's funny." And I don't know if this person was being serious, but it sounds like they actually were. And for some reason, I just imagine them sitting there in the chair getting really mad over seeing other references like Oprah Winfrey and Harris Pilton and being like, "She's not a Draenei, she's not a blood elf, this is blasphemy." But that's pretty much it. I mean, it's just a reference to Amelia Earhart, which I do think is pretty cool. I think this is also a good point to mention. There's like 600 and something Flightmasters in this game, so I spent quite a while looking through all of these and finding 10 of them, so there's actually a lot of cool Flightmasters that didn't make the list. But Amelia Earhart did make the list, and that's why she's number 9. 8. Number 8 is Surastraz, and Surastraz is a red dragon Flightmaster located at the Amber Ledge in the Borean Tundra. And according to the WoW Wiki, he doesn't appreciate being bothered and doesn't think highly of the Kirin Tor's more minor concerns with the Nexus War, saying, quote, "You and your Dalaran allies picket loose threads while the fabric of the world's future is being shredded." He also says, "You dare approach me, mortal. For the sake of your unborn children, pray that your cause is worthwhile." Which is pretty intense for just like going up to him and being like, "Can you fly me over there?" Also, following the war against the Jailer, it is reported that Surastraz is still stationed at the Amber Ledge, keeping the younger red dragons that work with the Kirin Tor in line. I also just really like the concept that there's this big dragon Flightmaster and you're like, whoa, this Flightmaster's awesome. He's just a big dragon. And he's just like, "I'm too old for this shit. What do you want?" And that's why Surastraz is number 8. 7. Number 7 are the Stone Fiend Couriers of Revendreth, and these are the Flightmasters for pretty much all of Revendreth, and they actually have the same animations as Imps, and a group of Stone Fiends is called a Nuisance, which is pretty funny. And this is one of the first times I'm actually putting Shadowlane stuff into a pointless top 10. There's like, I think a couple other times, but it's very few and far between that I actually do. They also say the line, "Why would anyone walk anywhere?" Which, I mean, he's got a point. He can really just fly anywhere he wants. He doesn't have to walk anywhere. Also, I found this cool fact about flight path speed, which is since Cataclysm, flight path rides move at 434% of running speed, making them considerably faster than unbuffed Master Flying, which is 310%. However, they also take you on unnecessary twists and turns to reach your destination, making the effective difference smaller. But anyway, back to the Stone Courier Gargoyle guys. They're pretty goofy, they're pretty fun, and I like them, and that's why they're number 7. 6. Number 6 is the Spirit of Gnomragon, which is a flying machine located at the Nessingwary Base Camp in Sholazar Basin and serves as the Flightmaster. It is only available after you complete the quest Have a Part, Give a Part, which is where you bring 7 Venture Co. spare parts to Weslick's Quick Wrench. And this is clearly a reference to the Spirit of St. Louis, which is the custom-built single-engine, single-seat monoplane flown by Charles Lindbergh in 1927 on the first solo non-stop transatlantic flight flight from Long Island, New York to Paris. A fun fact I actually found while looking this up was that the Spirit of St. Louis had no windscreen, so visibility directly forward was impossible. If the pilot wanted a view of what was ahead of him, he had to crane his head from the side window. Just imagine driving your car and the entire windshield's blocked, so you have to keep peeking out the side window to be like, where am I going again? But an interesting fact about the Spirit of Gnomragon is, according to some people that were tracking the flight speed, it's about half as fast as a typical flight path. So I think they did that because it's like, it's this old-timey, poorly put together gyrocopter. Like, it's probably gonna go pretty slow. And I actually kind of like that they did that, because I mean, it makes sense lore-wise, right? But that's why the Spirit of Gnomragon is number 6. 5. Number 5 is Bertram, and Bertram is a spectral griffin flight master located at the White Grove Chapel in Drustvar. It was the former steed of Lord Arthur Waycrest. And according to the WoW Wiki, on Lucille Waycrest and Alexander Treadward's wedding day, the Red Hand Assassins, led by Roland the Knife, attacked the Waycrest Guard at the event. Alone by the side of the building, Bertram was set upon by 3 of the assassins and presumably killed that day. After he was found dead, Bertram was buried nearby at the end of the path, and now his ghost stands vigil over his grave. And he's the flight master. But Bertram has this cool little kind of sad story, right? Like, he gets assassinated, he's buried here, but now he gets to fly people around as a ghost, so that's pretty cool. And I think we should have a Bertram mount. We have other spectral griffin mounts, but nothing as cool as Bertram. And that's why Bertram is number 5. 4. Number 4 is Baneflight, and Baneflight is a ghoul flight master located at Ebon Watch in Zuldrak. And I thought Baneflight was the only ghoul flight master in the game, but then I found Grimwing, who is located at the Death Knight starting area and the Broken Shore. So even though Grimwing is a little more widespread and in various places, there's just something about Baneflight that I think is funny, because he's located at the Ebon Watch, right? And the Ebon Watch is a minor encampment of the Knights of the Ebon Blade. And during the war against the Lich King, the Ebon Blade established Ebon Watch as a small outpost in Zuldrak and then conducted their own operations from there. So I think it's just funny imagining them thinking this out, like, all right, we need a bunch of people Ebon Watch. We got, I don't know, who's going to be the flight master? I don't know, Baneflight. You got flight in your name. You're going to be the flight master. Like, he just gets the job because he has flight in his name. He's like, oh, okay. I don't even know if that's how it works, but that's how it plays out in my head. And that's why Baneflight is number 4. 3. Number 3 is Jacana, and Jacana is a troll flight master located at Darkspear's Edge in Frostfire Ridge. And what makes Jacana so special is that he uses his torch to warm the wyverns that are cold, because obviously we're in Frostfire Ridge, it's cold here, it's snowing, and he has a couple quotes that he says to the wyverns, one of which is, "Just stay warm, it be okay, you're gonna be fine," as well as, "Just stay close to the fire, wyverns ain't be made for such cold, just stay warm." And so Jacana clearly cares about these wyverns, right? I don't know if he treats them like pets or something, but there could be a lot of flight masters that are like, whatever, just let them sit there and be cold. But, you know, he's literally using this torch to try and heat up his wyverns. And really, I don't think I've seen any other flight master doing something like this. And that's why Jacana is number 3. 2. Number 2 is Commander Jaredennis, and Commander Jaredennis used to be the flight master at Talrendis Point in Azshara back in Classic WoW. However, in Cataclysm, according to the WoW Wiki, with the Horde planning to invade Ashenvale, the Alliance upgraded Talrendis Point to a military base and placed Jaredennis as its commander. The Horde, knowing the area as the last of the Alliance defenses in Azshara, decided to bombard the area. During one of their assaults, Jaredennis was injured and the Horde sent someone to finish him off. In fact, you can even see that Commander Jaredennis is wrapped up in bandages. However, this is where it gets weird, because the quest is you, the Horde player, go and kill this guy, but he then comes back in Legion and fights off demons in the Legion invasions. So then you might say, oh, well, you know, maybe you didn't kill him, it was just you thought you killed him, right? But he literally drops his head. Like, you cut his head off and bring it to the Horde leader for the quest completion. So I don't know how he came back to life for the pre-Legion event, but he did. Maybe Blizzard just forgot that his head got cut off, or they're like, that doesn't matter. But either way, it's a pretty cool story to have a guy that was just a flight master become a commander of this whole area. So that's why Commander Jaredennis is number 2. 1. And number 1 is Omusa Thunderhorn. And Omusa Thunderhorn was a Tauren Windrider Flightmaster located at Camp Taraho in the Barrens. And after playing my fair share of Tauren in Classic WoW, I've had quite my share of interactions with Omusa Thunderhorn. And he's actually pretty cool. He's wearing an eye patch. He's like one of the only Tauren I've ever seen with an eye patch on. And he's just a dude that loves Windriders, loves helping people fly, and just chilling in the Barrens. Because you talk to him and he says, treat the Windrider well as it takes you to your destination. May your ancestors watch over you. And he also says, though the crossroads seems to be the center of activity in the Barrens, I prefer the quietude of Camp Taraho. Which makes it even sadder when you learn that he is killed during the Alliance invasion of Camp Taraho. You can even see how it happens using a funerary totem during the quest Honoring the Dead. And he says, no, stay with the others. Escort them north, away from the fighting. I'll stay here with the wyverns and cover your escape. Go! And then you see him say, wait, is it over? I've been run through. Ah, of course, I understand now. I am expected elsewhere. And then he mounts up on a wyvern and flies away. And so even in the afterlife, Omusa Thunderhorn is pretty cool. And that's why he's number 1. 10. Number 10 is Warden Moi BFF Jill, and Warden Moi BFF Jill is a broken quest giver located at Talar in the Grand. And this is actually a really old reference to a Singular Wireless commercial from 2007, where this girl would talk as if she was texting. And so the mom's like, what are you saying? And the girl's like, IDK, my BFF Jill. But I wanted to make this less about pop culture references and more about actual names that I just thought were cool. And so the reason I picked this guy is there's actually more to his name than you would think. So he actually used to be named Warden LOLOL, which is what you would think his name was, but it turns out his name was Warden capital IOLOL. So it looked like LOLOL, but it was actually an I, making it extremely confusing. I don't know why they did that. Maybe they did that to be confusing. I have no idea. But he actually mentions how a secret vote was passed around town that resulted in him having to change his name. And if he didn't, he would have had to go the way of Corky, who is the guy that's captured in cages all over Burning Crusade. And so, yeah, he's had 2 unique names, which is kind of cool. So that's why Warden Moi BFF Jill and Warden IOLOLOL is number 10. 9. Number 9 is Meggy Peppenrocker, and Meggy is a goblin located at Everlook in Winterspring. And this is probably the only time Meggy Peppenrocker has ever been in a top 10 list or World of Warcraft video about literally anything. I can't imagine anybody who's like, we need to get Meggy Peppenrocker in a video, unless it was like a WoW leveling Let's Play, right? But when I saw Meggy's name, I was like, dude, this is such a cool name. Meggy Peppenrocker, like, I don't know. It's just, it felt fun to say. Meggy Peppenrocker, even just Peppenrocker, right? Just what a fun name. And so Meggy used to have a quest in Classic WoW called Trouble in Winterspring, and it was the quest that brought you to Donovan Snowden. But after Classic WoW and Cataclysm, they removed that. So now Meggy just walks around doing nothing. But yeah, I like Meggy Peppenrocker. She's got a fun name to say. She used to be relevant, and now she's just pointless, which makes her perfect for Pointless Top 10, and that's why Meggy Peppenrocker is number 9. 8. Number 8 is Dense Louie, and Dense Louie is a house cat located on a balcony at the Keeper's Terrace in Dornegal. And Dense Louie is a big cat. You might even say he's a dense cat, because you can try to pick him up, but you can't pick him up. He's just too dense, he's too big, and you try to do it, and then he just goes back down, and you're just like, oh my god. For some reason, you can fight the most insane bosses in World of Warcraft, but you cannot pick up Dense Louie. And I was trying to figure out why there's an envelope under Dense Louie, which was kind of weird. And apparently there are numerous heavy cats and petable cats in Dornegal, but Dense Louie is the only one with an envelope under him. And somebody said on Wowhead, that rhymes. That's not what they said. They said I might be crazy on this one, but I think Dense Louie is a Princess Diaries reference. Princess Mia's cat is Fat Louie. When she tries to run away at the end of the movie, she picks up Fat Louie to find a written letter from her father who had passed away before the movie, or it could be a part of a secret, who knows. So it's possible that Dense Louie is a reference to Princess Diaries, or part of a WoW secret. We don't know, but either way, I like Dense Louie, and that's why It's number 8. 7. Number 7 is Faux Show Knuckle Bump, and Faux Show Knuckle Bump is a Pandaren at the Stone Plow Fields in the Valley of the Four Winds. And Faux Show, along with Koyan Na and Juru Elderblade, are fighting against Ick Thick Slicewing. I guess all those probably could be on this list as well, but Faux Show is the one that's on the list, and he can also be seen on the Timeless Isle. And during the war in Draenor, he could be hired as a follower in Garrison. But nobody cares about garrisons. And Faux Show is just beating up these Ick Thick Slicewings. And I thought Ick Thick Slicewing was an actual name of one of the Mantid, but it's just what a bunch of the Mantids are called. You know, the same way you have, like, Druids of the Grove. That's kind of a bad example. I don't know. You could figure it out. But yeah, Faux Show Knuckle Bump also has a quote where he says, "First we get into a fight, and then someone brings us beer. Can today get any better?" Which, highly agree, Faux Show. I would love to have a beer with Faux Show Knuckle Bump. He's also likely related to Show Nuff Knuckle Bump in the Vale of Eternal Blossoms. And I'd probably say they're related. I can't imagine there's many other Knuckle Bumps out there. But either way, he's pretty cool. He's got a great name, and that's why Faux Show Knuckle Bump is number 7. 6. Number 6 is Torchunk Two Claws, and Torchunk Two Claws is an orc quest giver located at Thunderlord Stronghold in the Blade's Edge Mountains. And there's a few reasons I like Torchunk Two Claws. One is when you talk to him, he says, "Bah, do I look like I have time for idle chit-chat? Do I? Be quick about your business. There are ogres to be killed." Which I just like the fact that he's like, "Do I look like I got time for this? Well, do I?" Like he's following it up, like really getting in your face about it. And then there's the fact that he just has 2 claws. Like most of the time you would think you'd have a claw weapon with numerous claws, or you'd have 2 claw weapons, but like he's got 1 claw weapon that has literally 2 claws on it. He's just kind of like a mediocre orc Wolverine. But like maybe that's just how he is. Maybe he's lived his whole life with only 2 claws. Maybe that's just part of his body, but I feel like it's part of his glove. So maybe he grew up just using 2 claws to fight all his battles, and now that's just what he does. Like, I'm curious about more lore over Torchunk Two Claws. Blizzard, we need more Torchunk Two Claws lore, please. And that's why Torchunk Two Claws is number 6. 5. Number 5 are Steve Stevenson, Bill Williamson, and John Johnson. And all of these NPCs are Flightmasters all over the Southern Barrens for the Alliance. And what I love about these names is that they're all kind of correlated, because there's numerous characters in World of Warcraft where they might be like Jimmy or something like that, right? But the fact that all 3 of these NPCs are located so closely together means that there is some sort of predetermined planning to be like, yo, let's have 3 flight path NPCs that all have first and last name being very similar, right? They also all look very similar, but slightly different. Like you would think that they're brothers or something, but clearly they're not brothers because they all have completely different names. But yeah, there's really not that much more to it. They all just have first and last names that are similar, which I think is actually more common than people would think. It's also that type of thing where if you had to make up a name on the spot, a lot of people would be like, my name's Steve Stevenson. I don't know. It's just kind of a dumb, funny thing. And so that's why I had to put Steve Stevenson, Bill Williamson, and John Johnson at number 5. 4. Number 4 is Hepzibah Sedgwick, and Hepzibah is a Forsaken found patrolling the Undercity, traveling through the Rogues Quarter and the Trade Quarter. And just what a phenomenal name that I don't think many people have ever really seen in World of Warcraft, even though Hepzibah has been around since classic World of Warcraft. Hepzibah Sedgwick. Like, that straight up sounds like the most made up name ever. And for some reason, she's got fist weapons on. And so you would assume, being in the Rogues Quarter, like, oh, okay, well, she's a rogue then. But she has mana. And so you're like, oh, well, maybe she's a shaman or something. But then it's like, that doesn't make sense. There's no shaman undead. So maybe she's a hunter? But then why is she in the Rogue Quarter? And then, I don't know. There's a lot of weird questions surrounding Hepzibah Sedgwick. And I mean, outside of that, there's really nothing else we know about Hepzibah. Like, there's no quests. There's no other lore. Nobody talks about Hepzibah. She just walks around with her claw weapons, and that's it. But you know what? Her name's pretty cool, and that's why Hepzibah Sedgwick is number 4. 3. Number 3 is Clinky Click Shatterboom. Try saying that 10 times fast. Clinky Click Shatterboom. Clinky Click Shatterboom. Clinker Click. That's besides the point. Clinky Click is a goblin located in Valdrakken, and she is an engineering trainer. And I'm just curious if this has been her name her entire life, because it's one of those things where her name is Clinky Click Shatterboom. So could you imagine her being, you know, having fishing as her main profession? You know what I mean? Or like alchemy. It's like if we had somebody named Sizzle Pop Kettle Boil and they weren't a chef. They were just like a blacksmith. It just makes sense. So it almost feels like she was destined to be the engineering trainer. It's also pretty likely that Blizzard just named her after engineering stuff. But I'm thinking of in-game lore reasons as to why she's doing what she's doing. She does seem like she's somewhat of a perfectionist in engineering and cares about what she's doing, because she says, absolute garbage quality. Last time I'll ever trust a dragon with a spanner. These fittings are trash. How am I supposed to outfit this unit when I'm given such lousy quality material? She's kind of like the Gordon Ramsay of engineering, actually. But you know what? She has a great name, and so that's why Clinky Click Shatterboom is number 3. Number 2 are Innocent Jim, Hugh Man, and Punchy Lou, all located all around Dalaran. And the reason I included them all together is they're all part of a quest given by Archmage Khadgar called Enemies Everywhere. And so Khadgar is like, don't you just notice that there's some citizens in Dalaran that just seem a little too mundane, almost inhumanly so? Spies serving dark masters. Root them out, but try and keep it quiet. And so there's actually 8 different ones, but my favorite were Punchy Lou, Hugh Man, and Innocent Jim. And I think Innocent Jim is my favorite because the fact that he's named Innocent Jim just makes you automatically assume that he's up to something, right? Like, oh, that's Innocent Jim. He doesn't get into trouble at all. Like, no, you know Innocent Jim is breaking the law every day. People are probably like, what crazy thing did Innocent Jim do this time, right? And then obviously we have Hugh Man, which, you know, human, right? But I think it would have been funnier if he wasn't human and you'd be like, wait, Hugh Man and he's not human? That's a missed opportunity there, but I still think it's pretty good. And then there's Punchy Lou, and I feel like Punchy Lou's name is really magnified by the fact that he's a hosen that is sitting at a wine bar reading a book. Like, it's just obviously he's a spy, so it's kind of weird that he's doing that. He's probably not even reading it, but it's still pretty funny. But yeah, I love these names, and that's why Punchy Lou, Hugh Man, and Innocent Jim are number 2. And number 1 is Ice Sickle. And Ice Sickle is a bound water elemental located in Highland Pass in Stormsong Valley. And Ice Sickle has trapped 3 Stormsong hunters in blocks of ice. And so Ice Sickle is a rare world quest and is part of the criteria for Adventurer of Stormsong Valley. But, I mean, let's be real here. The reason he's on this list is because his name is a play off of Icicle, and he is an ice sickle. He's got a sickle that he carries with him, and he's made of ice. And I think I just love how stupid this is. I was like, where am I going to put this guy? I had him at number 9 for a while, and then I moved him up to 5, and I was like, I'm just going to put him at number 1. I've had him on my list of pointless top 10, like, random things in World of Warcraft, and I'm like, I could put him on the names list. And I was like, dude, this is just, it's so dumb, and I love it. Like, he's literally an icicle carrying a sickle, and he's made of ice. It's just, I don't know. So, honestly, he's perfect for a pointless top 10, and so that's why Ice Sickle is number 1. Number 10 is Miranda the Hag, and Miranda the Hag is a gnome located on a tree stump at Sorrow Hill in the Western Plaguelands. And Miranda was actually a master illusionist of Lordaeron and Tyrion Fordring's most trusted advisor. She openly dissented the verdict passed by the Order of the Silver Hand and was banished for her actions, and she also knew Rexxar and Thrall. In fact, she says that she owes Thrall several favors, so I don't know what happened there, but I mainly remember Miranda because of the Onyxia Attunement quest, which is where you actually learn that she knows Rexxar, and there's a whole bunch of stuff, but Miranda's such a weird character because she used to be one of the best illusionists in probably all of Azeroth, and then, you know, she knows all these big, powerful characters, and then we haven't seen her again. So the fact that she's an illusionist means, is she still around? She's just disguised? Like, who knows? Maybe she'll show up and help Thrall again with these future expansions and these favors she owes him, or maybe she'll never appear again. But either way, I love how mysterious she is, and that's why Miranda the Hag is number 10. Number 9 is Darkon Drathir, and Darkon Drathir is the high elf that helped Arthas and the Scourge get past the defenses of Kel'Thalas, betraying his people for power and immortality. Oddly enough, Darkon has one of the highest canonical death rates in World of Warcraft, dying 4 times, execution by Arthas, vaporization by Anvina, killed with an enchanted arrow by Lorthamar, and then he got killed by us, the adventurers. And there's actually a lot of theories on why he keeps coming back, and it seems like the most common one is that he is part lich or necromancer or something. There's a theory that he tasted some of the Sunwell before Kel'Thuzad's remains were thrown into the well, and then Kel'Thuzad came out as this lich necromancer, so he got like part of that. I don't know, there's like some crazy stuff, and I don't know if any of it's actually true or not, but he's still a pretty cool character that I don't think a lot of people realize how vital he was to Arthas and the Scourge invading Kel'Thalas. And that's why He's number 9. 8. Number 8 is the Great Akazamzarak. I don't know how you say it. Akazamzarak? Akazamzarak. I can't say it. He's a goblin magician, normally found entertaining people in Dalaran, and he's actually an expert with portals and teleportation and is recruited by the Tiras Guard to teleport its members inside the Hall of the Guardian. And according to the Warcraft wiki, he was notably capable of opening and maintaining 8 separate portals to various locations scattered across 3 continents, which was a feat unprecedented by a single mage in the game. He also does magic tricks, so he stands in Dalaran and he pulls rabbits out of his hat. He makes flowers appear out of his sleeve. He asks you to pick a card, and then it's like a Hearthstone reference because the guy's like, wow, a golden Dr. Boom. And then he's like, hey, not that card, give that back. And then he also gets mad and says, hey, how about you help me with a new trick? I just need to find that saw. Or, yeah, sure, keep that up. You might just disappear, bub. And he also has a Futurama reference where he says, screw this, I'm making my own mage order with Hearthstone and succubi. So overall, he's just a fun, goofy NPC that's also insanely strong with the amount of portals he can create and hold open. So that's why the Great Akazamrazrak is number 8. 7. Number 7 is Helcular, and I put Helcular on this list because a lot of people know about Helcular's Rod, the classic WoW quest, but not a lot of people know about the actual Helcular that rod is from. So in the current version of the game, Helcular is a forsaken necromancer at the ruins of South Shore, and you can actually find him in the old Hillsbrad foothills in the Caverns of Time dungeon where him and Kel'Thuzad in their human forms are walking around together. And they pretty much have a conversation like it's Star Wars with the Emperor and Darth Vader, and he's just like, what is this necromancy? And he's like, it's not something the Kirin Tor wants you to know. And so after all this, Helcular was preparing to transform himself into a lich when a group of humans from South Shore found the cave where he was performing the ritual and murdered him right there. After that, he was buried in the South Shore graveyard, which leads us to the Helcular's Rod. Novice Thivand, which was one of Helcular's apprentices, tells you to go get Helcular's Rod and begin the process of resurrecting him so he can have his revenge on the people of South Shore that killed him. And so since then, in the Cataclysm, he was trying to find a way to remove the Worgen's immunity to the Curse of Undeath, and then in Legion, he actually led the forces of Azeroth against a bunch of demons. So he's actually doing pretty great. And that's why Helcular is number 7. 6. Number 6 is Zanzil the Outcast, and I'm sure you've seen Zanzil the Outcast plenty of times. He was in Classic WoW, where you had to do Zanzil's Mixture. He was in Zul'Gurub, the 5-man Zul'Gurub. But the actual Zanzil is pretty crazy. So according to WoWWiki, years ago, the Gurubashi exiled one of their own from Zul'Gurub, a troll by the name of Zanzil. The reasons aren't all that clear, but it had most likely something to do with Zanzil's tendency to administer powerful, behavior-altering drugs to anyone he saw. So yeah, that's a pretty good reason. He was like, hey, what's up, Zanzil? He's like, hey man, drink this. And you're like, okay. I don't really want to, but he's like, no, dude, just come on. But yeah, his mixtures pretty much turn everybody that drink it into strong but feeble-minded zombies that obey him. Then in Cataclysm, Zanzil attempts to unite the troll tribes of Stranglethorn into an army under his rule. He's then brought back into the Gurubashi tribe by the Shade of Jindo to help him restore Zul'Gurub to its former glory by resurrecting both High Priestess Jekik and High Priestess Vanaxis using his special elixirs. He's then killed in Zul'Gurub, failing at his attempt to redeem himself. But just think about this. He's an insane alchemist that gets exiled from a bunch of crazy trolls because they're like, this guy's too crazy. And then after a while, he gets brought back in because they're just like, listen, we need you to be crazy and make some crazy alchemy potions. And he's like, yeah, I could do that. Like, his actual lore is pretty wild, and that's why Zanzil the Outcast is number 6. 5. Number 5 is Tabitha, and Tabitha is a human quest giver located at Tabitha's farm deep in the Quagmire and Dustwallow Marsh. And I actually covered Tabitha in Pointless Top 10 Farmers in World of Warcraft. However, I wanted to bring her back for this Pointless Top 10 because I found her so interesting. So she's this powerful mage that's living with 2 apprentices right now, but she's been training generations of apprentices at her farm from both Alliance and Horde, though this shouldn't be possible as the humans only arrived in Kalimdor within the last decade. So already it's getting a little suspicious. She's also an alchemist, just to throw that in there, because I saw one YouTube comment theory on my Pointless Top 10 farms that said maybe she created this Philosopher's Stone to keep herself youthful and she's not really human. There's also a theory that she was Medivh's mother Aegwynn, and then there's the mysterious lore about her tiara that you have to get from Zul'Farrak from Hydromancer Velrotha. So maybe Hydromancer Velrotha used to be one of her apprentices? I have no idea, but I kind of love that. I love when lore keeps its mystery a bit, and it allows people to create their own lore. And that's why Tabitha is number 5. 4. Number 4 is Theldurin the Lost, and I picked Theldurin the Lost because this is the dwarf that punched Deathwing. So if you don't know this quest, it's a pretty famous quest from Cataclysm where this dwarf goes and he finds Deathwing and then he punches him, and that's that. And everybody, made videos about this. They're like, dude, the dwarf that punched Deathwing. But I wanted to make this video about the other guys that fought Deathwing as well. So when you do this quest, he's at his camp with his 2 other friends, and Lucian Tasselwrench says that he shrank the world down to search for Deathwing in the clouds, but then finds Deathwing in the sun, gets sunburned hands getting Deathwing out of the sun, and then launches Deathwing to Kalimdor, which I actually think is better than punching Deathwing. And then there's Martek the Exiled, who says blood was raining from the skies and there's all these fans around, and he takes one of his fans and his motorcycle to go knife fight Deathwing, but then when he goes to fight Deathwing, Theldurin shows up and starts punching Deathwing, and he's like, hey, get out of here! It's definitely one of the dumbest, best quests in World of Warcraft, but I just wanted to give some love to the other guys with Theldurin, because I think their stories are also pretty great, so that's why they're number 4. 3. Number 3 is Gunther Arcanus, and Gunther Arcanus to me almost feels like a Tom Bombadil from Lord of the Rings. So Gunther was a student of the Kirin Tor, but he was also a necromancer, even though necromancy was illegal among the Kirin Tor. He also had his Kirin Tor apprentice friends Bethor Ishard and Thul Ravenclaw. However, during the Third War, Gunther and Bethor were killed by the Plague of Undeath, while Thul willingly sided with the Lich King. The crazy part here is that Gunther actually breaks out of the Lich King's domination on his own. He believed he was the only undead with free will and that all the others were scourge slaves, and therefore isolated himself at Gunther's retreat, where he had his zombie minions attack anyone who approached him. So then fast forward to now, and the Forsaken are like, yo, there's this powerful necromantic lich out there, we should recruit him. So Bethor, his old friend, who's now a Forsaken, sends you to go steal his spell book to figure out who this guy is, and then you bring it back and he's like, oh shit, that's Gunther. So then Gunther asked the adventurer to defeat Scourge agent Lilith Nefera, I don't know how you say it, to prove that they were also an enemy of the Lich King. So after that, he agrees to join the Forsaken, and you bring a nether gem to Bethor so that he can communicate with his old friend. But it's very likely that this guy was one of the first free-thinking Scourge, which is insane. Like, he just broke out of the Lich King's domination on his own. And that's why Gunther is number 3. 2. Number 2 is Joran Deadeye, and Joran Deadeye is the son of the late Kilrog Deadeye and is the current leader of the Bleeding Hollow clan. He also ritualistically removed one of his own eyes to see a vision of his death, which is pretty badass. And when you talk to him in the Grand, he says, do you know who we are, stranger? The Magars, survivors. Survivors of a fallen dynasty. Survivors of the Red Pox. Survivors of a shattered world. And something that I learned that I actually forgot about when I was questing back in Burning Crusade is that Joran Deadeye actually goes to Garrosh Hellscream for help, and Garrosh refuses to lend him assistance. I was also kind of curious what class he is, like Thrall's a shaman, but it seems like he's some sort of witch doctor, warlock, shaman or something. I don't even know. But I wanted to put him on the list because this guy is like one of the most prominent orcs we have around. Like there's Thrall and Garrosh and all these guys we've had, but like this dude is Kilrog Deadeye's son, and he's still a leader of the Bleeding Hollow clan. In fact, in Dragonflight, he actually shows up again and he's like, hey, maybe we'll come back. So I do hope Joran Deadeye comes back, and that's why he's number 2. 1. And number 1 is Archmage Arugal. And to me, Arugal was always a guy that was just like, oh, you run SFK, you kill this guy. Like, he was just a boss in a dungeon. But when you read his lore, I think it's so much more interesting, and it actually feels like he should be like a bigger character than what he is. So Arugal was originally a respected patriot of Gilneas and a royal archmage, and he eventually became a member of the Kirin Tor. However, Dalawar Dawnweaver, a Kirin Tor mage later raised as a Forsaken, considers Argal to have been a charlatan whose knowledge of spellcasting was so bad he was unworthy to even clean chamber pots in Dalaran. And it was actually true, he was bad at magic, and he even had to enchant items to reinforce his weak magic. After Dalaran was destroyed by the Scourge, he returned home to Gilneas. There, King Greymane wanted Argal to help him find a way to protect his kingdom. And so Argal's like, I mean, I know about these weird worgans or something, I could help summon them in from the Emerald Dream and they can protect us. However, they are pretty crazy. But King Greymane was like, listen, we gotta do whatever, just bring them in. And so using Ur's research, who was another Dalaran mage, Argal summoned Worgen and fought off the undead that made it past the wall, until they started killing the people of Gilneas. And then they started spreading the Worgen curse all throughout Gilneas, and then we know what happened after that. Eventually, Argal then starts his own Worgen cult, and he goes crazy and tries to keep the Worgen under his magical control, and then of course you go there and you find him, and that is what he's doing. Another cool fact was that Argal had access to enchantments that allowed his favorite Worgen servants to retain a fair deal of their human intelligence. So after learning all that, I was like, dude, I should have read more about Argal. This guy's crazy. It's awesome. And that's why he's number 1. 10. Number 10 is Meg Morris, and Meg Morris is a human located on an isolated beach in Stormsong Valley wearing a Murloc suit. And right next to Meg are 3 lost tadpoles. So I would assume that Meg is kind of adopting these tadpoles, taking them in, protecting them, and being the mother that they currently don't have. Maybe she got killed by some random adventurers or some random creatures out here, whatever it is. It appears that the lost tadpoles have now kind of attached to her, and they're just kind of standing here. There's no quest here. There's just some piles of treasure, and that's it. Now, interesting enough, Meg actually used to be in Borealis with the tadpoles, and they would be in the Tradewinds market, but I guess after the alpha or the beta, they decided to move her out to Stormsong Valley on the beach and put her in a Murloc suit. I also read on Wowhead that this is the location of a pebble to obtain the secret battle pet ball, and the facing of this NPC acts like a compass to the hidden tunnel, so that might have been intentional, that might have just been a coincidence, who knows. But what I do know is she's taking care of these lost tadpoles, and that's pretty nice, so that's why I put her at number 10. 9. Number 9 is Ninciana. Ninciana is a night elf who used to sell relics in Dalaran, and she's still there, but she can't really sell you any more relics. So she says, I'm very sorry, but I no longer have relics to sell you. Their magic seems to have extinguished. Perhaps I'll go into dancing full time now. It would be a nice change of pace. And so then if you type /dance with her, she will say, not bad, though some additional schooling wouldn't hurt. Here, watch my hips, like so. And she actually just starts dancing. And so I decided to put Ninciana on this list for a few reasons, one of which is she is very polite for somebody that completely lost their entire purpose in this game. You know what I mean? Like, she used to just be a relic vendor. Now they just don't work, like they don't exist anymore. And she's like, yeah, it is what it is, but I got dancing, at least that's something. And so when you actually dance with her, she teaches you how to dance. Like, she didn't have to do that at all. She could have been like, get out of here, idiot, but she didn't. And she also has that cute red panda with a bow on top of the cabinet or whatever that is. So that's why I decided to put Ninciana at number 9. 8. Number 8 are Orphan Matron Battle Whale, Mercy, and Nightingale, all located in different spots, but they all run orphanages. And so Orphan Matron Mercy in Shatrath is like, the conflicts in Outlander deadlier than I've ever seen, and their most tragic victims are the children that are left behind. And then Orphan Matron Battle Whale in Orgrimmar says, there are costs with war, rogue, ones often overlooked. These costs are orphans, children who have lost their parents to the far too numerous conflicts that rage across Azeroth. And then Orphan Matron Nightingale pretty much says the exact same thing as Orphan Matron Battle Whale, but just says that the Alliance takes time to give something back to these innocents. This time is called Children's Week, while Orphan Matron Battle Whale says the exact same thing, but says Horde instead of Alliance. So it's a little weird that they say the exact same thing, but I doubt Blizzard cares or is going to go back and change the Orphan Matron dialogue. Although maybe they will. Maybe for Children's Week. That'd be pretty cool. But either way, I had to put all the Orphan Matrons on this list. Like, clearly these are some of the nicest people in the World of Warcraft. They're taking in orphans and raising them up, so that's why I put them at number 8. 7. Number 7 are Zari the Kind and Olisara the Kind. And if you couldn't figure it out, they're on this list because they both have the Kind in their name. And so Zari the Kind is a representative of the Golden Lotus, and she's sent to the Shrine of 7 Stars to help enlist the Alliance aid. But outside of that, there's not too much else. She has some dialogue about helping the Golden Lotus or defending the Veil, but that's really about it. So we just kind of have to take their word for it that she really is kind because it's in her name. On the other side, Olisara the Kind is a high elf first aid trainer located in Dalaran, and she is actually the bandage trainer, and she's helping to heal a bunch of injured Dalaran citizens. In fact, I didn't even know this. She was planned to have been associated with the scrapped first aid faction of the first responders, which I actually do think that's a cool concept for a faction, like a medical first aid type of faction, but I can see why it was removed. It feels like there wouldn't be that much to do with it, but I don't know. Maybe it's something to revisit in the future. Either way, that's why Zari the Kind and Olisara the Kind are number 7. 6. Number 6 is Scroll Sage Nola, and Scroll Sage Nola is a Tortolan located all over the place. She's in Stormsong Valley, Dazara Lore, Zandalar, and probably some other spots. And in Dragonflight, she can be found at the Algathar Academy. But of course, Scroll Sage Nola is most famous for the quest, A Turtle Made It to the Water, where you help the turtles make it to the water, and she goes, a turtle made it to the water. And Scroll Sage Nola just truly gives off the most stereotypical loving grandma vibe. She's always like, the adventurers are so polite these days. Why aren't you a spry young thing? It just feels like she's gonna bake you some cookies, knit you a sweater, and like tell you some fun old stories. But sadly, I did read that Marianne Strassner, who is the voice actress for Scroll Sage Nola, passed away in April of 2023. So I hope she rests in peace, and I know that Scroll Sage Nola will live on forever. And so that's why she's number 6. 5. Number 5 is TechBot, and TechBot is a crowd pummeler near the workshop door in Gnomragon in Dunmurrow. And so TechBot was actually a reference to Blizzard tech support. So his abilities were lag, BattleNet, summon, dupe bug, and patch. And so TechBot has some unbelievable quotes. He has, people think I like corn dogs, but actually they give me indigestion. Remember, if you harass the rep or spam the channel, your account may be kicked, banned, or worse. There is no cow level, really. I repeat, there is no cow level. Well, maybe there is. When the rep is talking to you, he will start each line with your name. If you don't see your name, he's not yet speaking to you. TechBot is sensitive and those words hurt my ears. Please be nice to me. I just want to help. I love you too. If you have been muted or have questions about the muting unmuting process, please visit You are welcome. Have a nice day. And the only reason I didn't put TechBot higher on the list is he will fight you, he will attack you, and he actually got removed in Cataclysm. So I think they need to bring TechBot back, put him in a city, make it so he doesn't fight anybody, and he just gives you fun, helpful advice. And that's why TechBot is number 5. 4. Number 4 is Ukor, and Ukor is an orc peon located by the path east of the Valley of Trials in Durotar. And I always remember Ukor as the guy that had the quest I had to pick up before I went to Razor Hill. You'd be like, oh, he's got the loaf of bread, I pick up the quest, I take the food to Razor Hill, cool, right? I never really read the quest or paid much attention to it. But when you actually read the quest, he's like, excuse me, can you help? I have a load of food here. I walked along the road and braved scorpions and spiders and worse. I brought the food to the Valley of Trials because I thought they needed it and I like to help out. But they don't need any of the food. Now I have to take it back to Razor Hill and I'm afraid of all the beasts along the way. Can you take it for me? I'm just a peon, but you're a hero. You fear nothing. Take it to the innkeeper, Grosk, at the Razor Hill Inn. Thank you. And so this orc was like, I'm gonna bring some food to the heroes at the Valley of Trials, and he brought the food down. He braved the spiders and the scorpions and worse, and he makes it here, and they're like, we don't need food. And then he's like, ah, geez, I don't want to go back. And it's kind of sad, because like he's just trying to be a nice guy, and you know what? He's like, you're a hero, I'm not a hero, but you know what? You are a hero, Ukor. And he did get removed in Cataclysm, so he's not in the game anymore. But bring him back! And that's why he's number 4. 3. Number 3 is Lorewalker Cho, and Lorewalker Cho is the leader of the Pandaren Lorewalkers, which are a Pandaren faction bent on exploring the world, finding stories, artifacts, and relics to fill out their libraries. And to me, Lorewalker Cho just seems like he would be one of the nicest people in World of Warcraft. Like, he's always just seeking out knowledge, he's trying to, like, help everybody, right? Like, he did story time. I mean, listen, at the 20-year anniversary, every, like, was it 30 minutes, you would have story time, and Lorewalker Cho would come out and he would tell his stories, and he had to do that non-stop for months. For months, he would go on that stage and tell the same, like, 3 stories over and over every half hour. If you thought you got tired of it after a few weeks or a few days, he had to do it for months, and he did it. On top of that, he helps guide you through the Mogushan vaults, and he's got, like, so many other quests. I think he's got over 100 quests in World of Warcraft, so Lorewalker Cho, I think one of the nicest NPCs in the game, and that's why He's number 3. 2. Number 2 is Myloon, and Myloon is a forest nymph located at various spots all around Azeroth. And Myloon is on this list because she deeply loves and cares for all the animals in World of Warcraft. In fact, one of the most visible signs of this is at the Druid class hall in Legion. And Myloon is surrounded by her animal friends. You've got squirrels and rabbits and deer, and she is just sobbing. She is crying uncontrollably. The tears are just pouring out of her eyes, and it's because Ursoc himself was being attacked by the Emerald Nightmare, and he called forth his defenders, and she was one of them, and they weren't able to save him, and so she's just in this depression or this just state of sadness, and she's just sobbing with her animals. Myloon also appears at your garrison in Draenor and asks you to help P-Chick hatchlings in Everbloom, and then she also showed up at BFA on Mechagon because she is said to have heard the teeny tiny animals all the way from afar. And so it's clear that Myloon is definitely one of the nicest NPCs in World of Warcraft, and that's why she's number 2. 1. And number 1 is Winston the Intellectual, and Winston is a rune bear found with the studious saber-toothed cubs in the Eye of Ysera in the Emerald Dream. And if you talk to Winston, he says, "Apologies, I left my tuxedo at my residence, but it is a joy to greet a fellow being of culture. I am merely educating my fellow brethren on the theory of magics and spiritual concepts of the dream. If you get the chance, you should ask for my friend, Wall, for their opinion on the matter. It is truly quite fascinating." And so for me, there's a few reasons why Winston is the nicest NPC. I mean, first, he's a very classy individual, all right? He left his tuxedo at his residence and he apologizes, but he's got his glasses, he's reading a book, and he's reading a book to the children to help them grow up wiser and more intellectual. And to me, it just feels like he's the old wizard guy in fantasy books that helps lead the main character on the right path to do good and to defeat evil. And that's why I was like, it just feels like Winston's number 1. And so that's why I decided to put him at number 1. 10. Number 10 is Slim the Shady Dealer, and Slim is an ethereal general goods vendor located at the Mana Tombs entrance in the Terakar Forest. And so Slim is his nickname, but obviously paired up with the title of Shady Dealer means he's Slim Shady, which is a reference to Eminem. But when you talk to him, he says, "I'm neither slim nor shady. As a matter of fact, I find both references insulting. Now, get out of my sight before I plant my staff up your backside." Which I thought was kind of funny because I thought he was going to actually reference the song The Real Slim Shady and be like, "Yes, I'm the real Shady. All the other Slim Shadys are just imitating." Like, I thought he was going to say something like that, and instead he's just like, "I hate being this." But I don't know. I think he's pretty cool, right? It's a fun little nickname. His nickname is Slim. By the way, the nicknames are anything in quotations. So that's kind of how I went about this, because I actually was going to make this Pointless Top 10 titles, but now that has to be a different video because I realized that the things I was thinking were titles were actually nicknames. So now we have Pointless Top 10 nicknames, and that's why Slim is number 10. 9. Number 9 is Toby Mother Goose Ironbolt, and Toby Mother Goose Ironbolt is a gnomish stable master located at Fizzcrank Airstrip in the Borean Tundra. And so I put him on the list because I just thought the nickname Mother Goose was funny, but I was like, why is he even nicknamed Mother Goose? And so when I was looking into it, there's some comments on Wowhead that said Goose from Top Gun would stick, but Mother Goose? But then somebody else said it is from Top Gun. In the beginning of the movie, when Maverick and Goose go to the bar, Iceman calls him Mother Goose. I've never actually seen Top Gun. People are going to be like, how have you not seen Top Gun? I haven't seen the old one or the new one. However, maybe I should watch it, and then when that part comes up, I'll be like, dude, Mother Goose, just like the gnome stable master. And so yeah, even without the Top Gun reference, I think it's just a funny nickname to have Mother Goose as your nickname, so I had to put him on the list. And so that's why Toby Mother Goose Ironbolt is number 9. 8. Number 8 is Remy 2 Times, and Remy 2 Times is a human quest giver located in Goldshire in the Elwyn Forest. And the reason he's named Remy 2 Times is because he repeats the words at the end of his sentences twice. So you can see here, he says, "Hey there, friend. My name's Remy. I'm from Red Ridge to the east and came here looking for business. Looking for business. You got any? Got any?" Although I was kind of confused because he only says the 2 times things occasionally. Like if you look at the gold dust exchange, he says the kobolds in these parts sometimes carry gold dust on them. But you would think he'd be like gold dust on them, like say it twice. But for some reason, he doesn't say it twice there. And then you might be like, well, he says it at the end of the sentence. But then the next paragraph, he goes and around the Jasper Lode mine to the northeast. And then he doesn't say it twice. Like, what? I'm confused by the inconsistency in his 2 times. The reward for the gold dust exchange also used to be a bag of marbles, as in, like, he lost his marbles. He's crazy, right? But then they replaced that with the gold dust belt. And it appears that this is a reference to Jimmy 2 times from the movie Goodfellas, who also did a very similar thing. So a lot of references, but that's nothing new with Blizzard. They have a ton of references in the game, so. I also haven't seen Goodfellas, so I haven't seen Top Gun or Goodfellas. Somebody's freaking out right now, like, oh my god, this guy's crazy. But that's why Remy 2 times is number 8. 7. Number 7 is Dirty Larry, Epic Malone, and Creepjack, all located in Shatrath City. And I always remember these guys because you have to go find the stolen book, and they're like, go find these ruffians that probably stole the book, beat down Dirty Larry and get information. And so you go over here, and it's just Dirty Larry and his crew, and they're just chilling by the fire, and he's like, beat it, kid, I got business to attend to. And so I think this is really the only place in the game where there's 3 people with nicknames all gathered around. So this is probably the highest concentration of nickname characters together in World of Warcraft for, you know, whatever that's worth. But I looked into it because I was like, there's got to be some references here, right? And so Creepjack is actually a term used by players of Warcraft 3 when one player was engaged with another player who was already fighting NPC creeps. You would attack them and it would be a creepjack. So it was almost like a gank in a way. And then Epic Malone is wearing a purple shirt, and epics are purple, so he's essentially just got like an epic shirt, right? And then Dirty Larry, there's not like any definitive reference, so he might just be a random character they actually created without a reference, which is probably more surprising than anything. But yeah, I always remember doing this quest in the Burning Crusade, and so I had to put these guys on the list because they are pretty cool nicknames, and that's why Dirty Larry, Epic Malone, and Creepjack are number 7. 6. Number 6 is Plucky Johnson, and Plucky Johnson is a human who's been turned into a chicken found at the Mirage Raceway in the Thousand Needles. And so Plucky is actually Magus Tirth's polymorphed apprentice, and he wanted to avoid Tirth, and so he's turned himself into a chicken to hide from him. But if you do /chicken on him, he will temporarily go back to human form and wave at you. But then in Cataclysm, Magus Tirth, who I believe is a reference to Minas Tirith, which wouldn't surprise me because, you know, Blizzard and references, he goes mad and he blames Plucky Johnson for the Cataclysm. And so Plucky's like, you gotta save me here. He's gone mad. Mad, I tell you. His inability to stop the flooding of Thousand Needles has caused him to go completely bonkers. He blames me for everything, including the Cataclysm. He probably thinks I'm Deathwing in disguise or something. Help! And then funnily enough, you can just be like, I hear that you sell Ancona chickens. And he's like, oh yeah, here's some. It's just so random and like out of left field when it's like, this guy's trying to kill me. And you're like, yeah, but do you sell chickens? And he's like, oh yeah, dude, I got chickens. And so whether you meet Plucky Johnson in Classic WoW or Retail WoW, it's kind of a wacky situation, and that's why Plucky Johnson is number 6. 5. Number 5 are Seawolf McKinley and Shaky Felipe, located in Booty Bay in the Cape of Stranglethorn. And so Seawolf McKinley is just this guy that's like, people gotta pay their debts. I don't care if they're undead or whatever. Like, I'm gonna get my money. And so there's quite a few people that he has you go and collect debt from, but Shaky Felipe is the first one that you have to go collect debt from, and it's the one where you have to obtain the 5 Mistveil giblets. So if you remember in Classic WoW getting those giblets, you probably remember Seawolf McKinley and Shaky Felipe. And so Seawolf McKinley's like, go out of town and hunt Elder Mistveil gorillas, find a nice selection of giblets, then take them to Shaky. Don't let on that they're from animals, let him think the worst. And so Shaky's like, I don't like the look you're giving me, but then he's like, hey, where'd you get these? No, don't tell me, I don't want to know. Who sent you, Seawolf? Here, take this pouch and give it to Seawolf and tell him I meant to pay him back. I swear, I just got a little drunk and lost my way, and you know how things are. He'll understand. You don't have to get rough. And then Seawolf's like, haha, well done. And when you showed Shaky those giblets, how hard did he shake? Haha, he's so easy to read. Also, is it giblets or giblets? 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 Is this one of those like GIF things? Either way, this is one of the most notorious quest lines in Booty Bay, so I had to put these guys on the list, and that's why Seawolf McKinley and Shaky Felipe are number 5. 4. Number 4 is Jack Alltrades Darrington, and Jack Alltrades Darrington is a Worgen profession trainer found in various places throughout Gilneas. And obviously this is a play on words because it's like Jack of all trades, because he has the ability to teach you all of the different professions, so he kind of knows all of the trades. However, he does have some outdated information on some professions, like he says, skilled herbalists can also use their knowledge of the earth to heal themselves, and skilled miners miners also become tough and gain increased stamina. That being said, he is still pretty cool, right? Like, he still knows all of the professions. How many people in World of Warcraft can say that they know all of the professions on one character? Like, he has to be one of the only characters in the entire game that has knowledge of every single profession. And you know, he's lagging behind with the times a little bit, but you know what? So do real teachers in real life. There's plenty of teachers, when I took marketing classes, they'd be like, how do you market on the internet? I know how to market in the 70s, right? So, I mean, hey, you know what? He's kind of realistic, and I think that's pretty cool. So that's why Jack All Trades Darrington is number 4. Number 3 is Jim Candles McHannigan. That's actually a lot harder to say than you would think. I also don't know if his name is just Jim, but with a B, or if it's supposed to be Jim. But either way, he's got a quest called I Take Candle, and that tells you all you need to know about his nickname. And he says, back before those damn kobolds gave me a permanent limp, I used to be William Pestil's #1 candle supplier. Hell, I even came up with the line, I take candle. Yeah, that was me. Kobold would say, you know, take candle. And I just respond, I take candle, and then bash their brains in. Jim drifts off for a second. Good times. The best times. Now, can't even use the bathroom without assistance. You want to help me? Kill some kobolds. You'll find a good load of them in the nearby mine. There's also an issue of the Moonbrook Times that you find on the ground that talks about how he was an eyewitness to seeing people get murdered, which I think were his friends, but I have no idea. Either way, Jim has had a very difficult life, but you know what? He's still going. And so props to him. And that's why he's number 3. Number 2 is Sloppy Joe Joe, and Sloppy Joe Joe is a human captive found in the northern part of Shipwreck Cove in High Mountain. And so Sloppy Joe has been captured by Murlocs, and you rescue him and free him, and he goes, bless you, I owe you my life and a good meal. We better get out of here before their leader comes, or we'll end up like... And then the Murloc spawns, and he's like... And then Sloppy Jojo is like, no, save yourself! And he starts running away, and then he despawns, and then you get attacked by Merkler, is his name. But yeah, I think everybody can figure out why I picked this guy. His name is literally Sloppy Joe. His nickname is Sloppy Joe, so he's Sloppy Jojo. And it's just really goofy and dumb, and I love it. Like, I don't know how he got that nickname. I don't know why they're just like, you know, we should call Sloppy Joe. Call him Sloppy Jojo. Like, I have no idea, but I think it's great. And so that's why Sloppy Jojo is number 2. And number 1 is Grilla the Grunt Crankchain. And Grilla the Grunt Crankchain is a goblin found patrolling the Orgrimmar embassy in Orgrimmar. And what makes her so great is her nickname is the Grunt, referencing the Orgrimmar grunts that are the actual guards of Orgrimmar. But she's wearing the same attire that they're wearing and also patrolling around, so it's like she is a grunt. In fact, she is doing the job of a grunt. If you talk to her, she's like, what are you looking for? And she can show you where a whole bunch of stuff in Orgrimmar is. So if anything, she's just another Orgrimmar guard. Apparently, she was added during Wrath of the Lich King, and she may have been intended to foreshadow the arrival of the goblins in Orgrimmar. And so I like to think that she came here, she became a guard, and then all the grunts were like, hey, she's the grunt. And then they just started calling her the grunt, so she became Grilla the Grunt Crankchain. Like, that's what I would assume happened, but I have no idea. I just think it's great when they do fun little things like this. So that's why Grilla the Grunt Crankchain is number 1. Number 10 is Sanderhoof and Haemon, and Sanderhoof, the old mountain bull, is a high mountain Tauren found at Sanderhoof's ledge above the Nessingwary retreat in High Mountain, and Haemon is the troll standing next to him, and you can probably guess why he's named Haemon. And neither of these guys have any quests, but they do have a lot of quotes. So Sanderhoof says, I remember when the world was simpler, where one could be a hero just by driving kobolds away from their home. And I remember a time when respect was shown to one's elders, a time before this troll outsider and his youthful trolling. He's also a level question mark, so this dude might just be a raid boss, like raid boss tier level, who knows. Meanwhile, Haemon says, "Dis old bull be mired in his old ways. He be too happy about it. I aim to fix that, man. There be some harsh truths about this world, harsh truths that be wiping the smile off one's face like a slap from one's mama." And you know, I almost contemplated naming this video NPCs you didn't know existed, but I assume some people would be like, I knew they existed, so I thought Forgot About was just more fun, even though you probably don't know some of the NPCs on this list. And these two might be on that, so that's why Sanderhoof and Haemon our number 10. 9. Number 9 is Got Weedlespan, and Got Weedlespan is the goblin located at the Steam Pools Resort in Feralus. And I almost put Gordon Tramsey on this list, but I was like, you know what? I think people still probably remember Gordon Tramsey. I don't think they remember Got Weedlespan. And he's the assistant resort director, and he says, "Can you possibly work any slower? I'm surrounded by useless idiots." And there's actually some weird stuff with Got Weedlespan, because back in the PTR of Cataclysm, it says, unless the resort had 2 assistant directors, he was originally intended to be named Dodd Finnert and would betray the goblins to the Twilight's Hammer, but this did not make it past 4.1 in the PTR. So the Steam Pools are actually a pretty crazy place. I remember even coming here for the mysterious camel figurine thing where you had to get the reins of the gray riding camel here. There's actually a bunch of stuff with the Steam Pools, but I'll probably go into that on a different Pointless Top 10. But for now, that's why Got Weedlespan is number 9. 8. Number 8 is Ralik the Drunk, and Ralik the Drunk is an ogre found in the World's End Tavern of Shatrath City. And I always remember going into this inn and seeing this ogre, and it was like the number one thing I'd see because he just stands out in front of everybody else. But the reason he's there is for the quest Cracking Some Skulls, where you have to fight Ralik and get the debt that he owes to Sal Salabim. Also, if you talk to Ralik, he just says, "What you want?" And that's pretty much all there is to him. He's just a drunk ogre sitting in the World's End Tavern, and he owes somebody money, so you gotta go make him pay his debts. That's really all it is. But I think probably just out of a nostalgia factor and the fact that, like I said, he's just kind of like the elephant in the room, or, you know, the ogre in the room, and he just stands out. So every time I pass by here, I'm like, hey, there's Ralik drinking. And I guess he's been doing that for over 17 years now, so his liver is probably not doing too great. And that's why Ralik is number 8. 7. Number 7 is Tarbin Hearthgrain, and Tarbin Hearthgrain is a Tauren located just east of the crossroads in the Barrens, and he's just cooking a bunch of bread, and he sells a bunch of bread. So this one's actually newer to me, because I didn't even know he existed until I played Classic WoW again, you know, a few years ago when it got re-released, and I was like, who is this guy? And I never even realized him back in the day, and he's just some Tauren dude baking a bunch of bread, and he's got this orc kid who's helping him out. I guess he's like an apprentice or something, but he's also related in some way to Moiraine Hearthgrain, who is located in Crossroads, and she also sells bread. She's the one carrying the loaf of bread, and, you know, I figure it's probably his wife or, you know, some other relative. I don't know. It could be his sister. Who knows? The one thing I did find odd about him is that he's selling all this bread, but then he sells you the recipes for smoked sagefish and sagefish delight. Like, why is the bread guy selling you recipes about fish? That doesn't make sense, right? Like, you would think he'd sell some fish dishes with bread, like casseroles or something. I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. So that's the thing that bothers me the most in this situation. But aside from that, I think he's pretty cool, and that's why it's number 7. 6. Number 6 is Wally and Tic Tac, and Wally is a Tuskar, and Tic Tac is a Hosen, and they're found on a small island at the center of the north shore of Kunlai Summit. And Tic Tac is actually a carpenter, and this is all a reference to The Walrus and the Carpenter, which is from Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. And if you talk to Wally, he says, "Welcome, my young friend." And you can say, "How did a Tuskar get the Pandaria?" And then he will actually give you one of many randomized quotes, which are all these like World of Warcraft-ified quotes that are referencing Through the Looking Glass in Alice in Wonderland. So in this one, he says, "The time has come, my goblin friend, to talk of other things, of Hosen and Grummels, and how my tummy rumbles." Meanwhile, Tic Tac's over there, and he's just working on building a boat. So yeah, these are Wally and Tic Tac. I think they're pretty cool. I think a lot of people forgot about them, and that's why they're number 6. 5. Number 5 is Lou the Cabin Boy, Tiny Jim, and Grezik Spindle Snap, all kind of combined into one because they're all just out here together. And I guess Molly the Parrot as well. But Lou the Cabin Boy is the Tauren in the canoe, and he actually carries you over to the Scalawag Point as part of the Tuskar quest chain. And if you talk to him, he says, "I lucked out. Not many Tauren get to be cabin boy on a frigate like this. Grezix even lets me man these incredible battle canoes." Meanwhile, Grezix was a member of the North Sea Freebooters until the loot from Shield Hill was brought in, and when he saw the cursed items were looted from the graveyard, he brought Lou and himself out to Kamagua, the nearby Tuskar village. So he was like, yeah, that shit's cursed, I'm getting out of here, pretty much. But whenever I think of Wrath of the Lich King quest, this is just one of those quests that really stands out, and I think it's because I remember Lou the Cabin Boy just canoeing you over to, I think Silver Moon Harry, which, by the way, Pointless Top 10 Weirdest NPCs, if you want to learn more about Silver Moon Harry. And they're just like a fun little goofy pirate crew, which I can't believe I didn't put these in Pointless Top 10 Pirates either, now that I think about it. I also just double plugged 2 Pointless Top 10, so we're going to cut it there. That's why they're number 5. 4. Number 4 is Dorog the Ruthless, and Dorog the Ruthless is an Ogron of the Bladespire clan that resides atop the Butcher's Rise of Bladespire Citadel in the Frostfire Ridge, and he is actually unleashed by the Frostwolf clan as they invade the Citadel, hurling flaming boulders down on them as they attempt to reach the upper level of the keep. And I completely forgot about him up until recently, where I was looking for Pointless Top 10 stuff and I flew over here and I was like, wait, who is this guy? And I was like, oh yeah, the big ogre guy that's like hurling big flaming boulders down the side of the Bladespire Citadel. And I was like, dude, this guy would be perfect for this list because I completely forgot that he existed, so I'm sure plenty of other people forgot that he existed. And I just think he's cool. He's just kicking these flaming boulders down like, yeah, these gotta take him out. Even though, you know, they probably take out a couple people, but he ends up dying in the end, and his body ends up being fed to hungry frost wolves. So not a great ending for Dorog the Ruthless, but I think he's pretty cool, and that's why he's number 4. 3. Number 3 is Grandpa Grumpleflute, and Grandpa Grumpleflute is a Grummel located in the Coonlice Summit, and he's just chilling with his lucky dues. Sometimes he plays his flute. And he was actually a rank 4 challenge card in the Brawlers Guild, which I don't think anybody would have expected from Grandpa Grumplefoot unless you actually participated in the Brawlers Guild and fought him. He also has some wacky quotes like, "My flute is good lucky do, you can't have it. Fluting isn't for stupids. Lucky do or lucky don't. Only stupid want to meet bad lucky do. You should dance for my flute toot." And then if you fought him in the Brawlers Guild, he said, "Many bad fortunes to you." I also just went back and listened to what I just recorded, and I said Grandpa Grumplefoot just a few seconds ago, so I'm not going to edit that out. That's just, listen, Grandpa Grumplefoot is his evil twin cousin or something. I don't know. But either way, Grandpa Grumpleflute, really cool Grummel, and a pretty cool grandpa, and that's why he's number 3. 2. Number 2 is Tweak, and Tweak is a vermin located in numerous spots ever since Mists of Pandaria. So he used to be in the Veiled Stair, then in Legion, he appears in Dalaran, and currently he's in the Zarlek Cavern. So who knows if he'll be in future expansions. You probably know by now if you're watching this like a couple years after this has been recorded. But Tweak is a vermin that is constantly surrounded by, you know, bottles of alcohol. He's surrounded by like old food. There's guitars, there's old coffee cups, and he has a hookah in one of them. So if I had to guess, I would say that Tweak is definitely a bit of an addict for substances because, you know, there's the hookah, there's the weird chemical lab, there's the alcohol, there's the mushrooms growing, there's all the food everywhere. Like he's got some issues, but you know what? He's still going. Every expansion, he shows up. You know what? I hope one day Tweak is just like, he's clean, he's good, he's just like, "Greetings, gentlemen. I have quit all the substances, and now I enjoy partaking in, I don't know, professional boat racing in the Howling Fjord." I don't know. Either way, that's why Tweak is number 2. 1. And number 1 is Jerkin Joe and Skidmark. That's right. You may have never even heard of these NPCs, but Jerkin Joe is a Murloc located in the Dalaran sewers, and Skidmark is a guy standing right near him selling sausages, or at least standing near the sausages. But one of Jerkin Joe's quotes is, "Get your warm beer and cold sausages. Ask for Skidmark and tell him Joe sent you." And some of his other quotes are, "My wife left me for a flounder. Things can't get worse, can they? What's that smell? And has anyone seen my brother Daryl?" Which apparently his brother is Dirty Daryl, a Murloc located at Margos's retreat in Dalaran. So I don't really know any of the lore behind Jerkin Joe or Skidmark or Dirty Daryl, and I really couldn't find anything, but I think sometimes it's better left that way, right? I don't know if I want to know. And that's why they're number 1. 10. Number 10 is the Helpful Jungle Monkey, and that's really his name. I'm not just saying like, oh, this guy's, you know, a funny, helpful monkey in the jungle. He's literally Helpful Jungle Monkey. He sells you 5 Telebeam bananas for 1 silver and 25 copper, and that's what he does. When you go into ZG, you see this guy, and he's ready to help you out. Now, some people might, you know, they might scoff at him, be like, "Oh, you know, this banana barely even heals me. It's like 200 health he's healing." And I mean, I would say to that, listen, why did this monkey even decide to start selling you bananas in ZG? You know what I mean? Like, why is he here? Is he just like, is he trying to aid the cause against whatever we're fighting? If that's the case, he's actually more useful than a lot of different NPCs we've seen throughout the years. I mean, this monkey is helping you in ZG more than Bane Bloodhoof was helping us in Shadowlands when you really think about it. That's why he's number 10. 9. Number 9 is Gronk Hamcheeks, and he is an ogre in the Twilight Highlands that just has his grill out, and he's just grilling. Like, honestly, this guy's fantastic. Like, in one hand, he's got a turkey leg, in the other hand, he's got his axe. He's not really cooking anything on the grill except maybe slop, or I don't know. I don't know what that is on there, but either way, I think it is a reference to the Emperor's New Groove. Kronk in Emperor's New Groove, and this guy's named Gronk, and then, you know, Hamcheeks, he's an ogre, and then his title is Kiss the Cook, which would make sense because I think at the end of Emperor's New Groove, Kronk actually wears the Kiss the Cook apron, and Blizzard does love their pop culture references, so it would not surprise me if this is a reference to that. But as for just a normal NPC, he sells various things. He sells the vile purple fungus, fungus squeezings, unidentifiable meat dish, rock hard biscuit, murky water, and oily giblets. So quite the assortment of edible and inedible arrangements. And just a fun NPC. I just love the fact that he's just some ogre grilling out in the middle of nowhere. You know what I mean? And that's why he's number 9. Hey! Number 8 is Bitsy the Innkeeper, and Bitsy is an abomination that is in the hinterlands, and as you can see, they have a very nice little tent that serves as the inn, and, you know, great hospitality. You've got flowers everywhere, a nice little candle on the inside. Sure, you've got a bloodied up table, decaying meat, you know, dead animal bones, but, you know, that's not what this is about. This is about the hospitality of a very welcoming and nice abomination. What are they selling, you might ask? Well, they've got tough jerky, they got mutton chops, they got cured ham steaks, they got roasted quail, they got wild hog shanks, and haunches of meat. So really just a lot of meat. And, I mean, if you take a look around, you know, this is the place you want to buy your meat at. Like, why wouldn't you want to buy meat here? It's just, you know, very, All right, listen. So Bitsy isn't the most cleanly. You know, Bitsy isn't the most tall, right? You know, probably the shortest of all the abominations, but you know what? Bitsy's trying. And as they say, trying is half the battle. So, I mean, you know, are you going to get E. coli and food poisoning? Probably. But are you going to have a good time before that happens? I'm not actually sure. That's why Bitsy's number 8. 7. Number 7 is Applebow the Fruit Vendor, and Applebow, as you might have guessed, is an apple tree. Apple being apple, bow being a main branch of a tree, so an apple tree. And everybody loves Applebow, dude. Every time I was bringing up, like, food vendors to talk about, people were like, Applebow, Applebow. And according to Wowpedia, it is quite possible Applebow is a druid in the form of a treant, as they are classified as a humanoid, although this is strange as normal Tree of Life druids are considered elementals. So nobody really knows what Applebow is, honestly. But all we do know is they're an apple tree selling fruit. And, you know, they got Dalaran apple bowls, deep fried plantains, tundra berries, telebeam bananas, although, you know, not as good as the helpful jungle monkeys bananas. But the weirdest thing is they sell fresh apple juice. So I don't know if they're growing these apples themselves and like squeezing them into the juice and selling it, or if they get the apples somewhere else. Like, I really don't know. I don't know if I want to drink Applebow's apple juice, but I mean, hey, you know what? If it's good, it's good. Who cares? I've seen weirder stuff in this game, all right? 6. Number 6 are the amphitheater vendors over in Zuldrak in the Amphitheater of Anguish. And it's a bunch of goblin snack vendors that throw out popcorn, ale, and peanuts if you wave at them. Kind of like you're at a baseball game or, you know, just some sporting event. Mainly baseball, because that's where they're like, peanuts, get your peanuts here, right? And then you wave at them and they throw you something. It's actually pretty cool. I didn't even know these existed until researching for this Pointless Top 10. But here's the weird thing, all right? They don't actually sell peanuts, popcorn, or ale. Like that, I don't understand that. Like, they're throwing all these things at you. You think they would also sell these things, but they sell crusty flatbread, pungent seal whey, sweetened goat's milk, sweet potato bread, and honey mint tea. But why aren't they selling the things they're throwing out for free? You know what I mean? You would also think as goblins, they would want to sell those things, even though they are giving them out for free, because they're like, yeah, some idiot will buy it, right? Either way, they're a cool food vendor, and that's why they're number 6. 5. Number 5 is Granny Smith, and Granny Smith is the food vendor in Shatrath. And much like Applebow, she sells fruit, but primarily apples. She's got shiny red apples, golden bark apples, and obviously her name is Granny Smith, which is referencing the apple. But she's also hard of hearing because constantly she's being yelled at by Crow Threadstrong, who is the orc leatherworking vendor who is very mad. And he is just constantly yelling at Granny Smith, being like, fruit vendor, your cart is still in our way. Fruit vendor, move your cart. Fruit vendor, do you think I'm blind? And he's just constantly yelling, but Granny Smith can barely hear, and she's like, what? Who's yelling? And then you got big ogre man over here named Grok, I believe, and he's just eating the apples, and she's like, where'd these apples go? And he's just like, oh, no. It's a fun interaction with all these different characters. And apparently, I didn't even know this was a thing, Crow came into existence because of a miscommunication during Shatrath's development when the leatherworking area was decorated with a huge fruit cart because of time constraints, and there wasn't enough time to change the fruit cart, so the designers responsible for NPC spawning came up with a backstory to explain it away. Player response was so positive that designers expanded upon Crow's reaction in later patches. Which, I think that's fantastic. That's the stuff I love to hear about, you know? It's like a little design decision that ends up becoming this crazy story meme type thing in the game. So, that's why Granny Smith is number 5. 4. Number 4 is the Snack-O-Matic, and specifically it's the Snack-O-Matic 4, which I didn't actually plan out to have the Snack-O-Matic 4 at number 4. It just kind of worked out that way, but... it's the machine you'll find on the Zeppelins whenever you're on the Horde and you take a Zeppelin. Well, you can go on the Zeppelin as an alliance, and I think you actually can use the Snack-O-Matic. And it just sells a wide variety of snacks. You got your cheeses, your ice cream, your bread, your water, food. Like, it's got everything you need. And I don't know why it's the 4th version, but... over on the other side, you get the Vendotron Deluxe, and the Vendotron actually sells non-food items, so it's got like thread and copper rods and fishing poles, and it's not on the list because this is a food vendor list, but maybe on a normal vendor list we'll actually include that one, but honorable mention. And, you know, here's a goblin fixing up the Snack-O-Matic. Now, the thing is, I don't know why we are on the 4th version of the Snack-O-Matic, right? Like, have we had the goblins work on a few previous versions and they just didn't work out and they settled on the 4th one? Maybe they used to have old Snack-O-Matics and they've just been upgraded throughout the years, which would actually be prior to Classic WoW, because from my research, the Snack-O-Matic 4 has been on the Zeppelin since, like, Vanilla WoW. So, I don't know. But either way... it's built well because, I mean, listen, it's been holding up for like 20 years at this point. I'm starting to see why they settled on the Snack-O-Matic 4. It's just a solid machine. Like, sure, you got the goblin going around. He's got to tweak it up. But, you know, if he had a car and it was still running after 20 years and he had to, you know, take it into the mechanic every so often, it'd still be a pretty solid car. You know, it's still functioning, still working. And overall, it's just one of the best pieces of goblin technology that we've seen. And that's why it's number 4. 3. Number 3 is Gorgon Zormu, the cheesemonger in Valdrakken, and easily one of the best new NPCs they've added into the game. This list was actually going to be about cheesemongers, but there weren't enough cheesemongers in the game, so they're just like, you know what, let's just do food vendors. And he sells Ice Crown Blue, Mogu Mozzarella, Eternity Infused Burrata, Apexis Asiago, Curding of Stratholme, Temporal Parmesan, Black Empire Brunost, and Silithus Swiss. I definitely did not say some of those cheeses correctly, but, you know, if you've been here long enough, you didn't expect me to anyway. But great NPC. He's surrounded by a lot of cool-looking, rapidly aged foods. You know, Bronze Dragonflight, you get it? And Nomi is here. Apparently, Nomi is here. If you talk to him, he says he has come to the Dragon Isles because the style of cooking that the dragons use is favored by him, which obviously they burn their food, right? They're dragon fire onto the food and it's burned. That's why Nomi's here. You get it? Haha. It actually is pretty clever that he showed up. But he's not on the list. This is Gorgonzorm, who's time to shine, and that's why he's number 3. 2. Number 2 is Curd Butterhoof, and Curd Butterhoof serves the best, finest, high-quality products you can find at a food vendor. These are homemade milk and cheese... Hold on a second. Homemade... Okay, well, let's just take a look at the products then. We got Skinny Milk, Pail of Warm Milk, Butterhoof Singles, Spicy Sharp Cheddar, High Fiber Gouda, Butterhoof Can't Believe It's Butter, Curdos Yogurt, and Curds Soft Serve. Now, I'm not gonna say anything, all right? But I would question a lot of things here. And, you know, I'm sorry to Applebow earlier for talking about the fresh apple juice when Curd Butterhoof exists and is literally just an entire store of homemade products. But she's also one of the most unique food vendors in the game for that reason alone. She also has her baby in the back there. I thought it was Baby Moozy for a while, and then I remembered that's actually a different baby, so this is just random, unknown Curd Butterhoof baby. But overall, you know, very unique NPC. She also has a Butterhoof Milk Stout available at Brewfest, so, you know, pick that up at your local Brewfest when that comes around. And it's number 2. 1. And number 1 is Myra Tierngard, the bread vendor in Ironforge. The female dwarf bread vendor that has been in the game for as long as this game has existed. She just walks around Ironforge selling bread and buying all of your gray and green vendor trash items. She sells numerous amounts of bread. You got your buttery wheat rolls, your cornmeal biscuits, your crusty flatbreads, your freshly baked breads, your cherry pies, your grain bread, your cornbread, your nut bread, your spice bread, your banana bread. She's got all the bread. She's got even the Mulgore bread, right? She must import that stuff. I don't even know how you get Mulgore bread to Ironforge, but she knows people. She's got a way. And easily one of the most beloved NPCs and food vendors in Ironforge, and maybe just in the Alliance in general. Even a Horde. Even a lot of Horde people are like, hey, it's the bread vendor, right? Like, you know, when I was trying to figure out who to put at number 1, it was just... I was thinking of food vendors, right? And there's all these cool food vendors and everybody, but she was just the most notorious food vendor, right? Like, to me, she almost feels like the Gammon of the Alliance. Like, sure, Gammon dies all the time, and you can't actually kill the bread vendor, right? But that's not what it's about. It's about the notoriety behind it. Everybody knows who Gammon is, both Horde and Alliance. Mainly Horde, but on the, you know, the flip side, mainly Alliance. But everybody knows who the bread vendor is in Ironforge, and that's why, out of all these food vendors, out of all these NPCs, Myra Tierngard is number 1. 10. Number 10 is Captain Heckleberry Smots, and he's a human quest giver located in Booty Bay, and his crew, boat, and entire fortune were lost when he was attacked by 3 sea giants. Gorlash stole his captain's chest, Negalash stole his cutlass, and Mockrash stole his monogrammed sash. Smots bought another ship, Smots Revenge, to find the sea giants and get his revenge, but they sank that too and killed his second crew. The only other survivor of the second ship was Sprager the cook. Smots is looking for adventurers in order to help recover his possessions that were lost in the attack. I really just love the fact here that he loses his ship to these giants, and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna go get him. And then he loses it again, and then he's like, all right, does anyone else want to help me? I'm not spending more money on this. I also kept wondering why people kept killing him, and apparently it's because Bloodsail Buccaneer reputation was a thing that people were farming while filming this. So there you go, and that's why Smots is number 10. 9. Number 9 is Captain Cookie, and he's Captain Cookie because he proclaimed himself captain of the Defias Brotherhood's juggernaut following its previous commander's death. Although he still performs his official duties as chief cook, anyone who questions the validity of his captain title has been known to come down with a severe case of food poisoning. That's according to the Adventure Guide. I also want to take this moment to point out that Van Cleef is actually not a pirate, because I was like, oh, Van Cleef will be on the list of pirates, and then I realized he's just a guy that works with pirates. So I was like, oh, well, all right. But how could I not put Cookie on this list? I mean, he's literally a Murloc pirate chef that has been in the game since like 2004. And that's why he's number 9. 8. Number 8 are Baron Revelgaz and Fleetmaster Seahorn. And I always remember these guys from going to Booty Bay, and then you go up to the top of the little ship building, and they're just like, hey, welcome to Booty Bay. Fleetmaster Seahorn is the most trusted advisor of Baron Revelgaz, and Baron Revelgaz is the de facto ruler of the town of Booty Bay and the Blackwater Raiders. And I was always curious, like, what's the difference between the Blackwater Raiders and the Bloodsail Buccaneers? Because those are like the two dominant pirate factions in World of Warcraft, right? Well, I learned that the Blackwater Raiders are considered good men and respectable as pirates go. It is an important Blackwater rule to only kill when necessary, and as such, there's no love between the Blackwater Raiders and the Bloodsail Buccaneers, which, as you can probably guess, the Bloodsail Buccaneers are the most notorious bloodthirsty pirates. Although extremely dangerous, they are the least wealthy of the pirate groups, and this is due to the fact that no one survives a Bloodsail attack, which means the pirates don't allow survivors to be possibly robbed again in the future. But aside from that, Baron Revelgaz and Fleetmaster Seahorn, easily some of the most notorious NPCs in Booty Bay, and probably World of Warcraft, and that's why they're number 8. 7. Number 7 is Fleet Admiral Tethys, and he's a human located in the Hall of Shadows in Dalaran, and he is a high-ranking member of the Bloodsail Buccaneers, a shadow of the Uncrowned being a secret organization of rogues led by the Shadows, their leaders, who form the Council of Shadows. Ranks of Uncrowned include members of Ravenholt, Deathstalkers, SI-7, Shattered Hands, Steamweedle Cartel, Shadowpan, Bloodsail Buccaneers, Hidden Circle, Gnomeregan, Covert Ops, Royal Apothecary Society, and once the Defias Brotherhood. So, a lot of groups, but he's known to be one of the greatest swashbucklers of the Great Sea, and at first he's accompanied by an axe-beak bird named Crackers, but Crackers leaves him for the Shadowblade, which that's you, the adventurer, because you become the Shadowblade, and he is then accompanied by a small hosen named Nanners, claiming that he can't be a successful pirate captain without a proper matey, and that Nanners is more handy. So yeah, this guy's got quite the amount of titles, and he's the leader of the Bloodsail Buccaneers, and that's why he's number 7. 6. Number 6 is Harlan Sweet, and he was the captain of the Irontide Raiders. The Irontide Raiders are a ruthless pirate band based out of Freehold and Tierguard Sound, and the original members of the Irontide Raiders were left over from a crew once captained by Flynn Fairwind and his first mate Harlan Sweet. After the two had a falling out, Harlan took the nastiest of the crew and formed the Irontide Raiders. But that's not the reason I put him at number 6. The reason I put him at number 6 is this man has one of the craziest treasures I have ever seen. He has, look at this. This is like the most insane treasure a pirate could have in World of Warcraft. And a pirate loves their treasure, as we all know. And this man's just sitting at his table eating like shrimp cocktail, lobster, a pig, and drinking wine all in front of his insane treasure pile that's got like a golden ram statue, just like paintings and stuff. It's insane. And so for his treasure alone, that's what put him at number 6. 5. Number 5 are all the pirates partaking in Pirates Day, especially the pirates on the southern beach of Stranglethorn. You'll find pirates sailing around in little inner tubes. You'll find pirates drinking grog. You'll find pirates just doing a whole bunch of stuff. And there's 4 pirates in particular that are all gathered around on this wooden plank platform thing. And you talk to First Mate Nereus, and he's like, today we all be pirates, but tomorrow you got to earn these colors. And you're like, okay, yeah, that's pretty cool. You know, everybody's a pirate today. You talk to Gunner Pops, and he's like, I haven't trained at any of the famous academies, but I've sacked all of them. And you're like, okay, that's just crazy Gunner Pops, right? You know, he's just doing what he's doing. He's a gnome. You got Quartermaster Rowley, who's like, you haven't lived until you sang shanties at sunrise in the salty mists of the sea. And you're like, yeah, you know what? That's true. That's true, Quartermaster Rowley. It's always a good time singing some sea shanties. And then you get to Cook Lastwind, and he says, when the Bloodsail raided my family's fishing boat, they didn't just kill everyone I've ever loved. They rescued me from a mundane life severely lacking in treasure and grog. A pirate's life for me. And I was like, what the shit? Huh? This dude just said that the Bloodsail Buccaneers, who we did learn earlier are extremely violent, killed his entire family and everyone he loved, but he's like, what are you gonna do? I'm a pirate now. Like, that's messed up. I never knew this was a thing. I was like, oh my God, Cook Lastwind's insane. And then there's a bunch of other pirates having a great time. But I was like, you know what? There's too many pirates here to add specifically. So I just decided to clump them all together and call them the Pirates Day Pirates. And that's why they're number 5. 4. Number 4 is Lord Una, and Lord Una is a fearsome Hosen sea captain and leader of the Una tribe. He is currently located inside a cavern, which they have named Una Kagu, on the northeastern shore of the Jade Forest. According to Wowpedia, he and his crew are a subject of many tales. They are said to have sailed all around the world, defeated Kraken, and ventured to a deep underwater kingdom of the Naga. Some say that there are many Lord Unas, and that when one dies, another Hosen takes his place. In one tale, he drank an elixir of immortality and cannot be killed. In another one, the Una are all ghosts. So there's a bunch of theories and old sea tales about Lord Una, but one thing is for sure, and that is that he's a monkey pirate. And really, just being a monkey pirate that probably defeated a Kraken and has a bunch of treasure and stuff is good enough to be number 4 in my book. So that's why Lord Una is number 4. 3. Number 3 is First Mate Jamboya, and he's part of a crazy Vol'dun quest, so buckle up, this is some lore. First Mate Jamboya was a member of the Pirate King Zemland's crew. One day, the port of Zemland was attacked by faithless Sethrak. Zemland did not have enough pirates to win a fair fight, so instead searched the port's contraband caches until discovering a dark set of powerful idols. Jamboya witnessed how Zemland slaughtered a group of Zandalari refugees seeking safe passage on the Pirate King's boats to escape the Sethrak. The first mate could have stopped Zemland right there and prevented the crew's eventual fate, but instead led them straight into it, much to his immense guilt. When it was clear they would be overrun by the Sethrak, Zemland then used the Dark Idols in a ritual that killed Jamboya and cursed him into an undead skeleton. Regretfully, Jamboya did not prevent Zemland from cursing the rest of the crew as well, marking the beginning of their cursed existence. Years later, a horde adventurer, Yu, heads into the port of Zemland to search for the Volpera scout Miki on behalf of the treasure-seeking Volpera at Camp Lastwind. They find Miki dead and Jamboya strung up on a nearby pillar, having been tied up after his last escape. Jamboya offers the adventurer the opportunity to help obtain vengeance and treasure. Jamboya asks the hero to retrieve idols that Zemland used to curse the port and burn the boats in the harbor, after which the group travels south to the Golden Isle where Zemland hoards all his treasure. Jamboya tasks the hero with stealing as much of Zemland's booty as they can while he destroys the idols recovered atop the altar where Zemland conducted his ritual. Jamboya then rings a gong and challenges the Pirate King to a fight. Pirate King Zemland is killed, however, with his dying words, he tells Jamboya that he will not remain dead for long. Realizing the truth in the captain's words and that Zemland's minions will likely be looking for them on the seas, Jamboya and his crewmates and the adventurer head back to shore and are welcomed into Camp Lastwind. Afterward, Jamboya uses the treasure of Zemland to buy his own ship and becomes a captain along with his crew, and they set sail into the seas. Okay, so there you go. That's the story of First Mate Jamboya. What a story, what a quest line. I mean, you can go do it for yourself if you want to experience all of it, but I had to put that way up on the list, and that's why First Mate Jamboya is number 3. 2. Number 2 are Gar and Pashthan Salthoof. Gar Salthoof is a Tauren found in the Cape of Stranglethorn, and he's a member of the Bloodsail Buccaneers aboard the Riptide ship. The best thing about Gar is that he gives you a quest related to scurvy. He says, gum disease, it's a real problem. I know you're new and all, and probably haven't ever needed your gums cut, but the rest of us pirates have to deal with a little thing called scurvy. It's why we keep so many limes around. Well, we used to keep limes around. Someone made off with our last shipment, but they can't have gone far. Maybe to the nearby islands? Bring them back, and maybe I'll see what I can do to get you promoted from Swabby. So I really just love the fact that this Tauren pirate guy sends you on a quest to go get limes to prevent scurvy. This is like just a fantastic quest, and the rewards are Gar's limeade and Gar's key lime pie. So it's really fantastic. But he is a member of the Bloodsail Buccaneers, so you do know that he's a little crazy. Meanwhile, his son Pashthan Salthoof is located on Young Belvo, which is a giant turtle that travels across Azeroth, starting in the Azure Span. And if you talk to Pashthan, he says, I heard stories about my father, a fierce pirate who caused much pain and suffering. Myself, I enjoy the waves and the wind. So he's not really a pirate, but he's wearing a pirate hat. And he's just, you know, he's out there just sailing the seas, man. He just loves the waves and the wind. And you know what? He probably just likes wearing the pirate hat. I mean, listen, his dad probably did do some very bad things because he is a Bloodsail Buccaneer. But the fact that his quest is just like Go get some limes. I think is pretty funny still. So that's why Gar and Pashtan Salthoof are number 2. 1. And number 1 is one that I think everybody saw coming. It's Captain Place. It's not. It's a hippo named Lifeboat. If you were looking for a real top 10 list, you have not found it. You got to go somewhere else. This is a pointless top 10. And here, hippos with pirate hats are the best pirates in the game. This is Lifeboat the hippo, and it is ironic that his name is Lifeboat because hippos cannot actually float. I read this on Wowhead and I had to go look it up. It says hippos cannot swim despite spending a lot of time in rivers and lakes. Hippos cannot breathe underwater or float either. Due to hippos' dense bone structure and heavy bodies, hippos sink in water. So really, Lifeboat the hippo, he's just having a great time. He's standing in the water, he's drinking some water, he's a pirate, and he's a great guy. And that's why Lifeboat is number 1. 10. Number 10 is Father Gavin, and Father Gavin is a human male located in the Misty Pine Refuge in the Dwarven Starting Zone Dunmoreau, and he's affiliated with the Argent Dawn. Now, I'm specifically talking about the classic WoW version of Father Gavin, because he is in the modern version, but he now has Kellen and Lowen Featherbreeze talking to him, and I guess that gives him a little more of a point. However, I think he's still kind of pointless in that, but he was really pointless back in classic WoW, where he just stood at his table as a mustached man in the Argent Dawn, and that was it. He had a house, he has his table, he's like praying or reading or something, and somebody said he could be a reference to an old historian or something. He also has a picture of a scantily clad woman in his room. But aside from that, he just has a bunch of dwarven stuff in his house. Like, you would just assume this is just a dwarf house. So, I mean, honestly, I don't even know if this is his house, but I guess it is, because he's standing outside of it. But either way, Father Gavin could be removed from the game, and I doubt many people would care, which means he's pretty pointless, and that's why he's number 10. 9. Number 9 is T'Chali the Witch Doctor, and T'Chali is a jungle troll ghost located in Bloodmaw Ravine in the Blade's Edge Mountains. And this is kind of a weird quest. So you meet T'Chali and it's his ghost, and he's just like, yo man, I wanted to help the ogres brew some beer, and then they pretty much got his recipe and buried him and stole his hookah, and then he died. So it sucks. Like, he just wanted to help the ogres get drunk, man, and then they screwed him over. So the whole quest line is you getting revenge on the ogres, and then he's like, yo, thanks a lot. You go get some loot from his grave. It's a really weird quest. But I love these types of quests. These are the types of quests that add a lot of flavor to the world. You know what I mean? It's not just some main storyline quest where it's like, go do this thing, right? It's just some troll. It's like, yo, I wanted to help these guys brew beer and they buried me and I died. This sucks. Let's go get some revenge on him. Another fun fact is his apprentices seem to sell beer in his memory at the T'Chali's Voodoo Brewery at Brewfest. So that's pretty cool. But listen, at the end of the day, this guy's pretty pointless, and that's why he's number 9. 8. Number 8 is Watcher Tallway, and Watcher Tallway is part of the crew of the Zephyr, which is a Zeppelin that goes from Orgrimmar to Thunderbluff. And this may shock and surprise you, but Watcher Tallway's job is to watch. So if you talk to Watcher Tallway, he's like, I be Tallway. Job be to keep the peace and watch. So I be watching. He has fantastic quotes such as, that cloud look like the war chief. There be a bird. There be a bug. Where the ship? A harpy. Wait, that be another bird. And that's it. He watches. He stands on the Zeppelin, he watches, he yells out what he sees, and honestly, it's fantastic. Like, just a little reminder, I'm not bashing any of these NPCs for saying that they're pointless, because as we know, inside pointless things are treasure, and this guy truly is a treasure. I mean, he really adds just a little bit of humor, a little bit of fun to that Zeppelin ride where you're like, oh man, this is just a slow Zeppelin ride to Thunderbluff, it's taking forever. But now you can have Watcher Tallway be like, yo, a bird, yo, a bird, yo, a bird. Wait, that's a harpy. Wait, another bird, a bird. And it's fantastic. And that's why Watcher Tallway is number 8. 7. Number 7 is Makazgar. And Makazgar is a troll found in the Darkspear strain in Durotar in Classic WoW. He got removed in Cataclysm, so he's not even in the game anymore. And although he is named and hostile, he is not associated with any quests. That's right. He has no quests. He doesn't do anything. He just stands there, and that's it. And people are like, what is his purpose? Is there anything? And somebody said his purpose is to gank level 6 to 8 toons swimming to Senjin after collecting their gnomish tools who are not paying attention. That's really the best solution I could find. There was another theory. Somebody said maybe he's just an outcast troll, and that's why he's just out there just by the ocean being like, man, this sucks, you know? But I mean, aside from that, this guy really is pointless. Like, he was so pointless, they just removed him from the game, and everyone was like, yeah, I don't even know there's a guy there, right? So, although, you know, there probably were a couple people that were like, yo, where'd you go, right? Like, it's one of those things where maybe every day you walk somewhere and you just see some random person you don't even know, and you're like, oh, there they are, and then one day you walk by and they're just not there. It's kind of like, what happened to them, right? You don't know anything about them, but you just know they were there every day, and now they're gone. Except, at least now we know why this guy's gone. It's because he had no points, so they just removed him. And that's why he's number 7. 6. Number 6 is Beastcaller Madalore, and Beastcaller Madalore is a troll located in Dazara lore, and he's just playing fetch with his raptor Luna. And someone on Wowhead pretty much sums this up pretty well. They said, found him throwing a ball to his raptor pet Luna, patrols a small area in Dazara lore, followed him a bit, trying to get a screenshot of him throwing the ball, but he kept running around, which he really does keep running around. It's annoying to film this guy, all right? Pauses from time to time and says, let's go, girl. He'll then break out into a run, having Luna chase after him. Other times, he will point and say, are you ready? And he'll do the bow emote, and Luna will sit, after which he will cheer, and Luna throws her head back in a silent roar as if cheering too. And that's it. I mean, there's no point. He's got no quest. There's really nothing else. It's just a Xandalari troll playing fetch with his raptor pet. And again, that's fantastic. I love that it's adding some character, some fun elements to the city. Right? You're like, oh, there he is. He's just playing fetch. But really, it's very pointless. Like, it's another thing where if it was removed, people'd be like, I didn't even realize that. Or they realized it, but not enough to like know that he was gone. But I really love that. I love that in this big city, there's all this stuff going on. There's like war happening. There's like magic and combat and spells and profession and everything. And this dude's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna play fetch with my raptor pet. And that's it. I think it's great. And that's why he's number 6. 5. Number 5 is Crend the Pointless. Man, this guy is really pointless. What is this? It's a NPC that sits in a fishing boat that says, hello there. And you click, why are you here? And he says, just fishing for treasure. Okay. Okay. See ya. Like, man, this might be the most pointless NPC in the game. Jokes aside, I think a lot of people thought I was going to put my NPC at number 1, right? I mean, listen, this is a pointless NPC, but I didn't want to put it at number 1 because I felt like everybody's going to be like, oh, he's putting it at number 1, right? And I was like, you know what? I think there are some cooler pointless NPCs in the game than my own. Now, I was like, it's going to make the list, of course, but I mean, this was like, honestly, this was a shock when I got this in the game. Like, I got a belt years ago in Pandaria, and I was like, that's pretty cool. But the fact that I actually have an NPC and it's in Dragonflight instead of Shadowlands, oh man, like, could you imagine if my NPC was in the Maw? I would never go see it. But now it's fantastic. I'm just chilling in the Azure Span on a small lake, and I'm just fishing. What's better than this? I made it, dude. But at the same time, extremely pointless NPC. But as we know, inside pointless things are treasure. And that's why Crend the Pointless is number 5. 4. Number 4 is Tiev Mordoon. And Tiev Mordoon was actually in one of my previous pointless top 10s. He was in pointless top 10 NPCs in the middle of nowhere, because he truly is in the middle of nowhere. He's in the west of the Sepulchre, on the ocean side of the Eastern Kingdoms. And he used to be a part of the Shaman quest, Call of Water, but now he literally just isn't anything. They removed that quest after Cataclysm, I believe, or they removed it at some point. It used to be in Classic WoW, but it is no longer, and so he's just there. He does have a very small purpose now, however. Apparently, if you don't speak to the minor manifestation of water before it despawns, bring him a water sapta and he'll bring it back so you can talk to it. So his whole purpose now is to bring back a water manifestation if you missed talking to it. Cool. I haven't actually seen that happen, so I don't know if that's true or not, but I guess that's what this person said. So, you know, he's not completely pointless, but man, that's pretty pointless. Like, you used to be a part of this really cool big shaman water totem quest. And now it's just like, oh, hey, I forgot to talk to this guy. Can you bring him back? And it's like, yeah, yeah, I guess I can. And that's it, right? Like, you could really live without this guy. But I decided to put him pretty high up on the list because he has been on a previous Pointless top 10. He is pretty pointless. And, you know, I really do think he's definitely one of the NPCs where if you removed him, nobody would care. So that's why he's number 4. Number 3 is Topper McNab, and Topper McNab is a human beggar and former farmer located in the trade district of Stormwind City. He can also be found on the Dark Moon Island at the pier on the southernmost point of the island begging for coins. In Legion, when the Uncrowned and the Veiled Hand infiltrated the city and caused lockdown, McNab was seen sleeping in the auction house. And then in BFA, in the Vision of Stormwind, Topper is transformed into a rat, and once he is killed, he reverts back to his human form. The talking cat Tittles will then begin eating the corpse. So I always just assumed Topper McNab was pretty pointless, right? He's just walking around Stormwind, he's begging for money, he says, help a poor bloke out, could you spare some coins, shine your armor for a copper, better get a move on, kid, that coffee's not gonna get any hotter. He actually has a reference to Wimpy from Popeye where he says, I'll gladly pay you on Tuesday for a hamburger today. But the thing that kind of blew my mind that I never knew is that Topper McNab actually has a backstory. So in Warcraft 3, a common tactic when playing humans to prevent the enemy from easily destroying defensive towers was to place farms in front of them so that the enemy melee units would have to destroy the farms to get to that tower. And Topper McNab says, it's all their fault, stupid Alliance army, just had to build their towers right behind my farm. And then he also says, stupid orcs had to burn my farm to the ground. So Topper McNab actually had his farmland and house and everything destroyed back in Warcraft 3, and that's why he's here in Stormwind. And that kind of blew my mind lore-wise. I was like, dude, I did not know any of this. And so just because of that, and because of how prevalent Topper McNab is, I was like, I gotta put this high up on the list. And that's why Topper McNab is number 3. Number 2 is the Ancient King, and the Ancient King is located on the ocean floor south of the Broken Shore. His purpose is currently unknown, and he is located under the death line. As such, reaching him is impossible. So, can't really get any close-up shots here, but it is actually kind of weird. I did not know about this at all. Someone tweeted this to me, so thank you very much for letting me know this existed, but these are really the types of things that I love. Just weird things out in the wild, right? Like, there's this guy called the Ancient King just trapped out in the fatigued ocean in the ground, and that's it. There's so many questions to be had here. Like, did the developers accidentally do this and then leave him there? Is this some weird reference to something? Is this an inside joke? There's so many questions, and we don't know it. Maybe we will one day. I mean, this guy could be the savior of Azeroth, and I mean, like, for all we know, this guy could be the strongest being in the world, but he's just stuck in a mountain. But I guess if he was the strongest being in the world, he wouldn't be stuck in a mountain, right? I don't know. To me, it's one or the other. It's either he's extremely important or he's not important at all. But one thing's for sure, and that's that this guy's pretty pointless, because if he got removed from the game today, I don't think anyone would care or notice, because they probably haven't noticed already. So that's why the Ancient King is number 2. And number 1 is Windle Sparkshine. And Windle Sparkshine is a gnome who stands outside the Silver Enclave in Dalaran, and every day at 9 p.m. server time, Windle walks around and lights the street lights of Dalaran with his wand. According to Wowpedia, he enjoys his job so much that he sells Windle's lighters so that others can experience the same joy. In World of Warcraft Legion, an image of his daughter Kindy Sparkshine appears on top of the lights in memorial to her death at Theramore. So this is one of those things where somebody was like, oh, you should check out the gnome that just lights lamps in Dalaran. He's pretty pointless. And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds pretty pointless. And I looked into it and I was like, dude, this is actually sad. Like, it's almost like a memorial. Like, he lights the lamps as a memorial to his daughter that died in the Theramore bombing. Like, that shit's crazy. And so in the Legion Dalaran, I think your wand doesn't actually work anymore. I guess that was in Wrath of the Lich King when you could buy the wand and use it. And so you say, Windle, why doesn't my wand work on the lamppost anymore? And he says, oh yes, terribly sorry about that. I like to light the lamppost myself, you see. It helps me. Let's leave it at that, please. And I mean, that is really sad, right? Like, this is the way he copes. Like, he copes with the death of his daughter by just lighting these lamps every night. And so to me, this truly had to be number one, because this really is the embodiment of inside pointless things or treasure. You know, you see this gnome, he's walking around lighting these lampposts. You're like, why is this guy even lighting these lamps, right? Like, it's just turn them on. It's just the game, right? But then you read into it and you learn his story and you're like, damn, dude, light those lamps. So head over to Dalaran at 9 p.m. and see him light some streetlights, because it's pretty cool. And that's why Windle Sparkshine is number one. 10. Number 10 is Gornbrod Sharpeye, and Gornbrod is a high mountain Tauren that sneaks around the drag in Orgrimmar. And when I first found him, I was like, this guy must be part of a quest, right? Like a rogue quest or something, maybe even a specific like Tauren rogue quest, you know what I mean? And that's not the case. He's just here. There's no meaning or purpose for this guy. He's just a Tauren that uses stealth to sneak around. Although he's not very stealthy, everybody can kind of see him, even though he is in stealth technically, and that's pretty much it. Like, he has no quest, no purpose. He's just here stealthing around. He does potentially have some relatives. There's Hark Sharpeye, who's located in High Mountain, and there's Yorick Sharpeye, who's located in the Vale of Eternal Blossoms as a rare NPC. However, there's speculation that Yorick may actually be Mr. Smite from the Dead Mines in disguise. So this guy could actually be related to Mr. Smite from the Dead Mines in some odd way. So who knows? I have no idea, but as of right now, he's got no purpose. He's just walking around. So that's why Gornbrod Sharpeye is number 10. 9. Number 9 is Chinli Chang, and Chinli Chang is a Pandaren that's seen meditating in Warspear's Goblin section of Ashran. And one of the reasons I'm sure not many people know about this guy is he's located in Ashran, which is a place nobody goes. Yeah, he's just sitting here floating above some oil barrels meditating, which I don't know many people that are floating in World of Warcraft, so already that's kind of cool. And then when you talk to him, he says, "Some think it's strange, but I find the rhythmic sound of goblin machinery to be quite relaxing. The smell, however, I could do without." And so I just love the fact that this guy enjoys goblin machinery noises. Like, he's straight up getting ASMR vibes from goblin machinery. Everybody else around here is probably like, oh, that noise is terrible. And he's just like, dude, this noise is awesome. It's also possible he might be related to Bonnie Chang, who is the general goods vendor at the Shrine of Seven Stars in the Vale of Eternal Blossoms, which is the Alliance hub area. And so yeah, this guy's great. He's meditating, he's floating, he's enjoying the sounds, and that's why Chinli Chang is number 9. 8. Number 8 is Scowling Rosa, and Scowling Rosa is a text and specialty goods vendor who walks around Booty Bay, specifically between the Old Port Authority and the Boardwalk. And she actually sells a bunch of books that were intended to be used for the Hidden History quest series, which was cut during the alpha of Legion. And even though the books don't have a purpose anymore, they just kept her in the game, and you can still buy them, even though there's no point in buying them, aside from being like, yo, I bought a book that doesn't have a purpose. And supposedly the original idea was to have a hidden history quest for each class campaign, with each book having to be individually tracked in order to progress and upgrade your artifact further. And so you can kind of get that vibe from some of the books that she sells, like The Untold War of the Ancients, The Seven Curses of the Southern Seas, The Fall of the War Chief, The Hunt for the Light's Wrath, Legends of the Silver Hand, Axe, Blade, and Fist, How to Meditate in a Hurricane, which I think Chinli Chang probably already read that one. But yeah, Scowling Rosa is just a really cool random NPC, and so that's why she's number 8. 7. Number 7 is Xiao Niao the Nightingale, and I'm pretty sure I said that correctly because I looked it up. And Xiao Niao the Nightingale is a Pandaren that is standing on the roof of Spice Master Jin Zhao's house. And she's just standing up on this roof with some unbelievable balance, and when you talk to her, she says, "Don't you just love watching the birds? I wish I could fly too." So she's clearly up here because she wants to be like the birds, and there's actually birds flying all around here, so it's kind of metaphorical, I guess you can say. And when I looked it up, it appears that Xiao Niao actually means little bird in Chinese. And I thought she was perfect for this list because when I try to find these NPCs, I try to find ones that you might have seen when you were just walking around the game, or maybe you're questing and you look up and you're like, oh, that's a random NPC. Maybe I'll have them for a quest later. But no, they don't have any quests. They're just a character that's there to add flavor to the world and the environment. And so oftentimes you just forget about these random characters, but you know what? That's why I created Pointless Top 10, so we can find these random NPCs or random things out in the environment or world that we just never noticed or forgot about. And so that's why Xiao Niao is number 7. 6. Number 6 are Ginger Ginger and Flap Flap, and these are winged Hosen located at the Hosen Throne in Dazara Lore. And they appear to be guarding the Monkey King, and if you talk to him, he says, There are many secrets, both mysterious and divine. You have yours, and I have mine. And then when you talk to Flap Flap, he says, like me new wings, fast they may be, no slicky can hide from me. Wickets either, filthy wickets. And Ginger Ginger says, slickies of Zandalar are weird, too ook and salty, and they sometimes talk back. But yeah, I put them on the list because I don't think there's any other winged hosen in the entire game outside of right here, and they actually get referenced by the Monkey King back in Pandaria in a quest called the Monkey King, where he talks about Sky Hosen. I'm also not sure how they even got their wings, because when you talk to Flap Flap and he says, like my new wings, that kind of implies that he used to not have wings, but then he got wings somehow, so I don't know if he was granted them magically by the Monkey King, or maybe he mutated them, or like, I have no idea, but that's what's so great about it. And that's why Flap Flap and Ginger Ginger are number 6. 5. Number 5 is Salisbury the Help, and Salisbury is a gnome quest giver located at Far Watcher's Glen in Stone Talon Mountains, and he appears to be a fan of the citizens of Gilneas who have turned into Worgen. And so not only does he dress like somebody from Gilneas, but he believes that if he manages to gain Hierophant Malik's trust, he will transform Salisbury into a Worgen. And I couldn't get the quest to pop up, but he wants you to go to the Charred Vale and collect a blazing heart of fire, and I guess somehow that'll help him to become a Gilnean Worgen. But then if you speak to Hierophant Malik, he says, I've tried explaining to Salisbury time and time again that there is no possible way I could transform him into a Worgen. He refuses to listen, and he has instead convinced himself that if he gains my trust, I will let him in on the secret. Gnomes are very strange. And so yeah, it's just a really weird situation where there's a gnome that just wants to be from Gilneas and turned into a Worgen. I don't get it, but that's what he wants, and so that's why Salisbury the Help is number 5. 4. Number 4 is Kevin Browning, and Kevin Browning is a human drink vendor, specifically a coffee aficionado, located in the lower city section of Shatrath City. And Kevin sells one thing and one thing only, and that's black coffee, and you can buy 5 black coffees for 64 silver, which in this economy, that's a pretty good deal. But I wanted to put Kevin on this list for a few reasons. Number 1 is I also am a coffee aficionado. I only drink black coffee. I'm not a big fan of any of the like fancy coffee drinks. Maybe once in a while I'll have one, but that's like a dessert to me. Like when I have coffee, I just want black coffee. That's all I want. I don't know. I guess that makes me a coffee douche as well, but I am what I am. And the other reason I put him on this list is I just never even noticed him. And I've been to Shatrath numerous times. I've played since Burning Crusade first came out, and I don't know how I just never noticed him. So that's why I decided to put him on the list, and that's why he's number 4. 3. Number 3 is Ermal and Sheldon, and Ermal is the Niffin riding atop Sheldon the snail. And they are a part of the Marl Business Bureau, which I imagine is a reference to the Better Business Bureau. And they will just go around this city in a big circle looking at everything, and occasionally Ermal will stop Sheldon and get off, and he'll go yell at some of the businesses and be like, hey, are you practicing the right business etiquette? I don't know what he says. He doesn't actually say anything. He just makes a lot of noises. And then he hops back on Sheldon the snail, and they just keep doing that over and over, going all around, hopping off, yelling at people, getting back on, going to the next place. And I'm surprised that there's like no comments about this guy. I thought this guy was so funny, and I looked all over the internet, literally no comments about him. I was like, dude, this guy is perfect for Pointless Top 10. How can there be no appreciation for Ermal and Sheldon making sure that our businesses are safe and functioning, specifically in Ajkahet? And so that's why I had to put him on the list. So that's why Ermal and Sheldon are number 3. 2. Number 2 is Grek, and Grek is an orc warrior found at the Stonebreaker Hold in the Terakar Forest, and Grek is illiterate. He cannot read. In fact, he is shouting, someone come read this wanted poster to Grek. Grek can't read. And when you talk to Grek, he says, you read wanted poster to Grek? Grek want to help. And Grek actually has a quest called Grek's Crazy Night, where he says, Grek had a bad night last night. Shiny Mummy Man came into Grek's house and told Grek that he had to go to Mana Tombs in Alkendown, but Grek is still trying to read wanted poster. Grek's face lights up. Grek knows. You go find Shiny Mummy Man and tell him Grek sent you. It perfect plan. And then when you do, Artificer Morphalius, the Shiny Mummy Man, just says, that meathead sent you instead. I suppose you'll do. And I also want to give a shout out to Advisor Phala, who is a Blood Elf quest giver, also located at the Stonebreaker Hold, not too far away from Grek. And when you talk to her, she's just like, I must have made a misstep somewhere to be assigned here. And I think her name's supposed to be like failure, like failure. So maybe she failed, that's why she's assigned here. I don't know, I just thought it was funny. So either way, that's why Grek, the illiterate orc warrior, and Advisor Phala our number 2. 1. And number 1 is Zarg Bone Crunch. And when you hear that name, you're like, damn, dude, Zarg Bone Crunch. He must have fought in a bunch of battles. He must have beaten people up and everything. But he's actually just a pet battle trainer in Ashran. And he likes cats. And when you talk to him, he says, Zarg like kitties. Zarg trained his little kitties to be cute little warriors. What? Why you look at me like that? You got something against kitties? So actually, you know what? He might actually crunch bones if you don't like cats. That might actually that might actually be the situation. But I love this guy. He's actually holding and petting a cat, and that cat kind of looks freaked out. I'm not gonna lie. It's like, ah, so I don't know if it actually likes it, but there's also some other cats running around his legs. It's just, this guy has probably retired from fighting, and now he just likes being a pet battle trainer, and he has his cats, and that's all he wants to do. And I love that for him. And not many people know about him because, again, he's an Ashran. So now you know about Zarg Bone Crunch, and that's why he's number 1. 10. Number 10 are the Drowning Warriors located in the Kelpthar Forest of Vazjir. And so these are orc warriors that were going to go on this ship and go fight and conquer Stormwind. And they're like, yeah, we're going to unify Azeroth under the Horde banner. It's going to be for the Horde warriors. And then they go and they get attacked by this big squid monster, and it destroys the boat. And it sinks, and a bunch of them are drowning. However, there is a quest where you can rescue some of them, but you can only rescue 6. So all of the other drowning warriors are just perpetually drowning. And to me, that's the sad part. Like, imagine your entire existence in World of Warcraft is just drowning, right? And occasionally you might get saved, but even then, you respawn and you're drowning again. Like, everybody always talks about Gammon being like, oh man, he gets killed all the time. That must suck to be Gammon. But like, at least he has moments of being alive and not feeling pain. You know what I mean? Like, these dudes are just constantly drowning. And so even though they don't have an inherently sad backstory, I would say that their current situation they're in is pretty sad. And so that's why the Drowning Warriors are number 10. 9. Number 9 is Rude Show. And Rude Show is the Pandaren founder, owner, and innkeeper of the Wild's Edge Inn located at Zoo's Watch in the Krasarong Wilds. And I actually learned from the WoW wiki that the internal name for Zoo's Watch is Sad Panda Town. And there's actually quite a few sad pandas in this panda town. So you have Sunny, who's just really depressed because it's raining, which, you know, it's kind of funny because her name's Sunny. And then there's Yoon, who's working on his boat, and he's just like, what's the point of any of this? There's no point to any of this. But apparently everybody's sad in this town because of the Shaw of Despair. And so this big quest happens, and you exercise the Shaw of Despair energy from the town, and everybody goes back to being happy and normal, except for Rude Show. And you can tell that because he has some quotes like, what outbreak? I'm always like this. I never should have opened this in. It's just depressing here. Do you have to stay here? No, it's just you. I bet you aren't even going to buy anything, just like all the others. Just leave your money in the coffer. Although I don't think I want to buy anything he's selling, especially not any consumables, because he's sitting next to a big slab of raw meat. There's food spilled all over the floor. There's furniture and pictures and doors just laying on the ground. Like, I don't think I trust the cleanliness and the food safety of this place. And so this guy wasn't made depressed by the Shaw of Despair. He was already depressed. And so that's kind of sad, actually. And so that's why Rude Show is number 9. 8. Number 8 is Gory, and Gory is an abomination found at the Writhing Haunt in the Western Plaguelands. And so according to the WoW wiki, Gory makes his first appearance as a friendly abomination to the Alliance, and it's believed that Gory was sent with the Forsaken Outriders to wreak havoc, but his intentions were different. When the humans saw him, they charged in to fight him, and they expected him to fight back, but Gory didn't even care about them. And that's because Gory didn't want to be a fighter. Gory wanted to be a farmer. And so one of the human farmers here is like, yo, can you go train on this abomination so we know how to fight abominations? And so you go talk to Gory and you're like, hey, can you help me and my friends with some combat practice? And he's like, you want to fight? All right, Gory, fight. And then afterwards, he's like, Gory, give up. You farmers fight more good. But then the farmers that he trained up go out and they start fighting enemy abominations. And then the Forsaken are fighting back. And pretty much they're all just fighting each other. And it kind of gives Gory PTSD. And he just wanted to be out here on the farm having a good time. And he essentially helped them become a weapon, which is what he's hated. And so after the Alliance flees to Chillwind Camp, Gory becomes hostile to both factions. And it's really just sad. Like, he just wanted to be out here in the sun, being a farmer, having a great time, but he's essentially just used as a weapon or a practice weapon. And so that's why Gory is number 8. 7. Number 7 is Jeremiah Payson, and Jeremiah Payson is the Forsaken cockroach vendor that was located in the trade quarter in the Undercity. And Jeremiah's real name is Jeremiah Fellstone, and he became one of the victims of the Scourge and was raised into undeath. And then, in order to forget his former self, he changed his last name from Fellstone to Payson and became known as the Cockroach Vendor. And so in the Western Plaguelands, you actually talk to the ghost of his sister Janice, and she wants you to bring him a package, and she sends him a bunch of personal things as well as the deed to Fellstone Farm. Jeremiah declines to reclaim the farm and instead tells you to bring the deed back to her and find the other half from her husband, who's a ghoul that you have to kill, and it helps to put her soul to rest. Then we actually learn in the book Before the Storm that he had 3 nephews living with him in the Undercity, James, John, and Jacob Fellstone, and they actually leave him and go try to live with their living family members and are killed in the Arathi Highlands and then buried there by Anduin, which I actually mentioned last week in Pointless Top 10 Graveyards at the Gathering Graves. And so Jeremiah lost his own life, and then he lost the lives of everybody that he loved, and he really just has his cockroaches, and so that's why Jeremiah Payson is number 7. 6. Number 6 is Ahab Wheathoof, and Ahab Wheathoof is a Tarn quest giver located in Bloodhoof Village in Mulgore. And Ahab has lost his dog Kyle, and you have to go get his dog Kyle the Frenzied and bring him back by feeding him some tender strider meat and returning him to Ahab Wheathoof. And that's not really the sad part of this NPC. The sad part is that the voice and design behind him is from a Make-A-Wish kid that went to Blizzard headquarters, and Ezra Chatterton got to design the NPC, the quest, and even voice Ahab Wheathoof. And Ahab actually cannot be attacked by either the Horde or the Alliance. And so even though Ezra did pass away a year after all of this happened back in 2007, he does get to live on in World of Warcraft as Ahab Wheathoof, and that's pretty cool. And so that's why Ahab Wheathoof is number 6. 5. Number 5 is Mankrik, and I feel like I don't have to tell you too much about Mankrik, but Mankrik is an orc located at the crossroads in the Barrens. And so if you play Alliance and never did the Mankrik quest, or you've just never played WoW before, Mankrik was battling some Quillboar with his wife at a small Tarn camp when they get overrun by the Quillboar, and he's just trying to fight them off, and he can't find his wife anymore, and then he just gets knocked out, and he gets woken up by a Tarn druid who's tending to his wounds on the Gold Road. And so he's now standing at the crossroads, and he's like, please, can you just go find some sign of my wife out there? Like, I don't think it's gonna end well, but I still got some hope left, right? And so you head out there, you try to find his wife, and you do find her, and she's dead. And when you go back to tell him that you found her corpse, he just says, I understand. Thank you. And so even though this quest became one of the biggest memes in World of Warcraft, with people just being like, where's Mankrik's wife? Because back in the day, it was actually hard to find quest stuff because you didn't just have the, little quest marker on the minimap. You had to actually go out there and be like, I don't know where this thing is. And so people would just be like, where's Mankrik's wife? But they asked it so many times that it just became a meme. It doesn't defeat the fact that this is actually a sad quest. Like, this guy was out fighting Quillboars and they got overrun and he doesn't know where his wife is. And then you go and find her and you're like, yeah, she's dead. And he's just like, he's kind of not really in shock, but he's just so depressed that he's just like, I understand, thanks. Like, he gets it, but you can tell it's like eating him up on the inside. And it's pretty sad. And so that's why Mankrik is number 5. 4. Number 4 is Brog, and Brog is an ogre mage located in the goblin town of Mudsprocket in the Dustwallow Marsh. And Brog survived the near slaughter of his clan by the Black Dragon Flight at what is now the Stonemaul Ruins and the Den of Flame. And so he initially fled with the other Stonemaul survivors to Brackenwall Village, but then Mock Murok refuses to take revenge against the Black Dragons, and so he asks you, the adventurer, to take revenge on the Black Dragon Flight. And so when you talk to Brog, he says, Brog glad Mudsprocket goblins have let him stay here, but sometimes he thinks he hears them laughing at him. And then Axel, the Mudsprocket innkeeper goblin, walks down and talks to Brog, and he's like, I thought we talked about this, Brog. You can't stay in this building. Sure, it can house you, but there's no room for anyone else. And he says, you said Brog could stay here. You promised Brog you'd help him regain Stonemaul Clan Mound. Yeah, we said you could stay here, but this building's our headquarters. All of our manuals and blueprints are stored here. But this is only building that fit Brog. Goblins make buildings too small. I'm inclined to say they made ogres too big. I can see I'm not going to convince you to move now, but don't think this is permanent. So even though it is sad that a bunch of these terrible things are happening to Brog, you do actually help him with questing and get some revenge on the Black Dragon Flight. So that cheers him up a bit. So at least unlike many of these other stories, Brog gets to experience a little happiness, and that's why He's number 4. 3. Number 3 is Wenren Althal, and Wenren is a quest giver located at Beladar's Bounty in Hallowfall. And Wenren is a part of the quest The Last Mage because he is the last surviving mage of the Hallowfall Arathi, and he's working on a way to open a portal back to the Arathi Empire, and he needs you, the adventurer, to help him. And so you start helping him by going down to the shore and finding some magical arcane crabs, and then he's like, yo, these crabs are great, we just gotta extract the energy out of them. And so you start playing around with all this arcane energy in the lab, and you eventually do start opening up some portals, and you're like, all right, let's go into them. And so you start going into them, and he's just like, yo, this is working. Hey, whoa, there's some crazy stuff over here. But then he's like, do you think Larky's still around back home? That's my cat. And then he's like, meet me back at the lab. We're gonna complete this spell and get home to the Empire. And so you go check on him, and he's dead. He dies. Like, what? I actually thought he was a fun little character and he wants to go meet his cat, and then boom, you port back and he's assassinated. And so to me, this quest is just like so many layers of sadness because, you know, you meet this new character, you think he's going to be part of the story, he's going to go meet his cat, we're opening these portals, we're going to go see the old Arathi Empire and stuff, and then boom, it's all over, he's dead. It sucks. And so that's why Wenren Althal, the last mage, is number 3. 2. Number 2 is Korgrin, and Korgrin was an earthen that was the caretaker of the Morning Rise at the Isle of Dorn. And this was probably one of the saddest quests in the War Within. I know everybody was talking about it, but he knows his time is coming to an end, and he wants everything to be in order, and so he wants you to help Urtago become the next caretaker of the Morning Rise. But when you talk to Urtago, she tells you that Korgrin still calls himself the caretaker, even though she's pretty much been the caretaker of the Morning Rise for some time now. And so Korgran actually writes a request that he's left for Urtago that talks about how when he goes into final shutdown, he wants to be taken to the shore, which is where he usually travels when he needs time for himself. And so you help him to forge a lantern, but he keeps forgetting things, and then you meet up with him and Urtago, but he gets confused and doesn't really know who anybody is, and eventually you find him, but he doesn't know where he is or who anyone is, and so you help and lead him to the shore like he requested, and he walks into the sea and his body shuts down, and he's there to this very moment holding his lantern up high. And so this is clearly a quest that's talking about dementia and Alzheimer's and, you know, people getting older and just, you know, it's about life, really. And I think that's why it's hit so many people so hard, especially if you've had any family members or friends go through these types of things. And so I'm actually thankful that they didn't phase him out or something after the quest is complete, and he's still standing there to this very day. And so that's why Korgran is number 2. 1. And number 1 is Lunk, and Lunk is a pacifist ogre involved in quests in the Searing Gorge, and he requests players do peaceful alternatives of what other quest givers have asked them to do. And so when you first talk to Lunk, he's like, Lunk came from the Badlands, other ogres tried to make Lunk fight, Lunk hate fighting, Lunk want to learn, Lunk see machines to the south, machines made of gears. Maybe if you ask nicely, machines will give you some gears, then maybe Lunk can have a gear and learn about machines too. But you do have to kill the machines to get the gears, and so when you bring him to Lunk, he's just like, you didn't kill the machines, right? Right? Why you do that? Why you kill? Lunk tired of all the killing. Lunk quits. And so Lunk then runs away and quits being a quest giver to go and find some real adventures. And so Lunk then randomly shows up to show you the more peaceful way to do these quests, such as riding on the spiders to get their spider venom, which this is probably one of the weirdest looking things I think I've seen in World of Warcraft, an ogre just belly riding on top of a spider in the Searing Gorge. And then instead of killing the dwarves, he's like, hey, you just have to take stuff from them, so why not just fight them until they're tired and then get them to go to sleep, because they're cranky anyway, they don't get enough sleep. And so Lunk does this by sitting on them, and one of the dwarves is like, this is worse than death. And so to me, the reason Lunk is the saddest NPC is because he really doesn't want anybody to get killed or die, and yet everything around him is getting killed. I mean, we're in the World of Warcraft, and so he's just like, I'm gonna show you some better ways, and he shows you these crazy ways that actually do work, to be fair. And it just brought me back to the other week where I was in the Onaran Plains for the hunt, and they're like, go kill some happy beavers, just chilling out. And I'm like, I don't want to kill the happy beavers, they're happy. And they're like, oh, you want that mount? Go do it. And I'm like, all right. But either way, I just feel bad for him, and I can relate to him, so that's why Lunk is number 1. 10. Number 10 is Victor Ebenfall, and Victor is a Worgen druid in the first aid place in Dalaran, and he's just chilling in a bathtub. You walk in here and you look around and you're like, what? Is that a sea lion in the bathtub? But apparently he can't shapeshift out of aquatic form. If you talk to him, he says, what are you looking at? Ain't you ever seen a sea lion before? And you go, not like this. And he goes, yes, I'm a druid. And well, I'm kind of stuck like this for a while. I was patrolling the sea around the broken shore when an infernal crashed down into the water right on top of me. The blast was so strong and instantly knocked me unconscious. When I woke up, I was here in the care of the nurses. They say after a few days I should have the strength to shift back, but in the meantime, I'm stuck in this contraption to keep me from drying out. Do me a favor and don't mention this to any of the other druids. They'll never let me live it down. So yeah, that's pretty much it. He's just a druid stuck in aquatic form in a bathtub. And great shower curtains there, by the way. Very good. And that's number 10. 9. Number 9 is Arako the Hunter, and Arako is an orc hunter down in Vazjir just hunting fish. And for some reason, everything's going real fast down here. I don't know why. I don't know if we've gone like deep enough to where the laws of physics change, but something's going on. But I think it's funny because Arako kind of reminds me of Billy, the my WoW Machinima orc hunter. But there's a quest where a guy's like, hey, can you go find Arako? He seems to be missing and it's weird to send someone to go find them, but I'm running out of options. And you go find Arako and he is just hunting fish. And the reason for this is that his pet wolf got eaten by an eel and he won't go anywhere until she is safe. He also has the quote of, shooting fish in a barrel is easy. Shooting fish in an ocean is a little harder. So yeah, that's just Arako. You know, he's definitely not your run-of-the-mill NPC. This guy was pretty weird, and I haven't seen too much about him. You know, maybe it's because nobody really quested Vazjir that often, but I think he definitely deserves to be on the list, and that's why he's number 9. 8. Number 8 is Silvermoon Harry, and Silvermoon Harry is a pirate who can be found at Scalawag Point, and he has an obsession with blood elves. It is really weird. So Alanya is his girlfriend, and if you talk to her, she says, this is the only way Harry will ever talk to me. I have to keep this stupid mask on all the time, which, listen, if that was a real life thing, you got to get out of there. That's a big red flag. And then Silvermoon Harry has to repay his debt, which is why you go talk to him, and he tries to fight you, and he's like, do not test me, scurvy dog. I'm trained in the ways of the Blood Knights. Which, if you don't know what a Blood Knight is, it's a Blood Elf Paladin, pretty much. And then he talks about how Blood Elf treasures, unlike any other, it's not just the gold or the silk or the gems used as materials. Sindori craftsmanship is valuable in and of itself. And so after that, you're like, all right, well, that guy was weird, but I'm never going to see him again. But then he reappears in Battle for Azeroth, where Harry is hired by the Alliance to help establish Fort Victory in Nazmir on Zandalar, and he's tricked into believing he'd be working with Blood Elves, but instead it was Blood Trolls. So overall, this guy's weird as shit. That's why he's number 8. 7. Number 7 is Idej the Wise, and Idej is a gnome mage in Drustvar, and he just lives randomly in the middle of nowhere in the mountains. I remember finding this guy being like, wait, who is this? Why haven't I seen this before? And I guess because I haven't really quested much in Drustvar, but he constantly just walks around a campfire talking to Tap-Taff, pausing to unsuccessfully test a fire spell on it. And once you kill him, you can actually get the Tap-Taff the Pig quest, which gives you Tap-Taff the Pig as a pet. So if you haven't gotten that yet, there you go. I just got you a free pet. And so while researching this, I was like, this is so weird. What does this even mean? So I found on Wowhead, somebody commented named Idej the Wise, and they said, hey, World of Warcraft fans, a message to all the players who found Idej the Wise and his little piglet friend Tap-Taff. I would like to thank everybody. 6 years ago, my brother and I came up for the concept for Idej the Wise one afternoon at Blizzard Studios. His brother works for Blizzard, and the idea was Idej was going to be a very small in stature with a bit of a punch fire mage who likes to drink and cast mixed up spells. Idej is actually Jedi, but spelled backwards. And Idej is actually an old modified AD&D character they created 38 years ago in 1985. And they are lucky to have him put in the expansion of the game back when, I guess, BFA was the expansion. So that was it. That's pretty much the lore of Idej. You can read more about him if you go over there and read about him or just research it. But I just think he's weird, right? He's just this random gnome mage in the mountains. He's got a bunch of animals all around. There's like a raccoon in his bed. It's just like, what's going on over here? But I love it. I think it's, you know, it kind of reminds me of in The Hobbit, the Radagast the Brown a little bit, just having all these animals in his house and stuff. Although he is trying to like cast spells on them instead of actually saving them or whatever. But overall, he's pretty weird, and that's why he's number 7. 6. Number 6 is Gordon McKellar, the assistant confetti cannon operator in Stormwind, and you know, at first you're like, okay, whatever. He's just some random guy working on fireworks. But then he starts swimming around. And that is really what pushed it over the edge for me. Like, at first I was like, all right, you know, this guy is a little weird. But then you see him start swimming around. And it's like, there's so many questions. How does he do this, right? Like, does he have some sort of evil powers? And he might actually, because he is here because he drops the Doomsayer robes. And you disguise yourself as a Doomsayer for an hour. It's a toy that you can get. There's actually another version for the Horde, and that would be Charles Ghastly, an undead, but I don't think that guy swims around, so he's definitely not as weird. So the fact that he's swimming around is what really bothers me, right? It's just like, how is he doing it? I'm genuinely interested in how he is able to swim around, because I feel like I haven't seen really anybody else in the history of World of Warcraft just swimming around like they're in space. You know what I mean? So for that reason alone, I felt he had to be on the list, and that's why he's number 6. 5. Number 5 is Dude Brule, and Dude Brule is a Drogbar that wanders around the Stone Dark Grotto in High Mountain with his right fist up, and adventurers can fist bump him to receive the 1-hour fist bump buff, the description of which reads, "Fist bumped a Brule." Nice. This is like the good kind of weird, right? Like Silvermoon Harry was the bad kind of weird, but this guy is the good kind of weird. He just walks around trying to fist bump everybody. He's trying to improve that morale. Like, this guy should have his own achievement. You know what I mean? Like, this should be an achievement of go fist bump Dude Brule, because this is like a necessary task that every World of Warcraft player should do. And I really do love the fact that this is just his entire existence. He just wants to walk around, just fist bump some people, improve the morale, and just make everybody happier. It's like, yo, what's up, man? Fist bump, right? Like, I feel like Dude Brule is the type of guy that would love to be a greeter at Walmart, you know? Like, he gets older. He doesn't really care about making money or do anything. He just wants to make people happy, right? You walk in, he's like, yo, what's up, man? Fist bump. Like, that's the vibe I get from him. And so, even though he's weird, he's a good kind of weird. And that's why Dude Brule is number 5. 4. Number 4 is Zenkiki, and Zenkiki is a troll druid that's an initiate of the Cenarian Circle, and you receive a quest to go help him essentially learn how to become a druid and how to, like, play his class, right? So you take him out into the wild to kill some plagued animals, and he is really struggling. He turns into cat form and he just starts leaping all over and roaring and meowing and hitting everything but the enemy. And then he turns into a bear and he's unsure if he's even hitting the target. And then he turns into his aquatic form and he's stuck on his back and he needs you to help push him over. But I think my favorite one is when he goes into boomkin form and he just spam moonfires himself. And it genuinely made me laugh out loud because I was like, what is going on? So you might be thinking, okay, well, this guy's just some dumb troll druid, just like the hunter we saw in Vaz'jir, right? But Zenkiki's actually done a lot. He helped defend Sethria's roost on Mount Hyjal against the minions of Ragnaros. He was sent as an investigator of the primals by the Cenarian Circle, although he said he had trouble getting his flight form to work. He appeared in the Dream Grove when Malfurion named a new archdruid, although when everybody celebrated by turning into bears, cats, moonkins, or flight forms, he transformed into a lion seal. But then he becomes an assistant to the archdruid in order to learn, and in BFA, he was part of the dual Cenarian Circle Earthen Ring forces, aiding Magni Bronzebeard to heal Silithus from the wounds champion. And in Dragonflight, he joined the Dragonscale expedition and traveled to the Shady Sanctuary in the Onaran Plains of the Dragon Isles, where he can be seen speaking with Thistlee Crow. And so even though he's a weird NPC, he's made quite the journey and quite the progress, and that's why he's number 4. 3. Number 3 is Phil Gresham, and he's a vendor in Borealis that sells shoes, but he also will shine your shoes, and he just really creeps me out. I'm not gonna lie. So one thing I thought was that he had really tiny feet, and I was like, that's really weird. Like, he sells shoes, he shines shoes, but he has these really tiny feet or tiny boots. But it turns out, I think his feet are just clipped into the ground, because when I look up actual pictures of him, it looks like he has normal sized feet. And then when you talk to him, he just sounds completely wasted. He's just like, oh, bits and bobs is all wasted. Right? It's just, I couldn't understand what he was saying. And I mean, in the grand scheme of things, he really just kind of creeps me out. I contemplated putting him higher up on the list because I'm like, he's not as weird as some of these other people, but like the vibe he gives off is just this really weird vibe. So it's a bit of an unconventional one, but I still wanted to put him on the list. And because of how weird he is to me, I put him at number 3. 2. Number 2 is Grifta, and Grifta is actually one of the most reoccurring NPCs in the entire game, appearing in every expansion except for Wrath of the Lich King. And Grifta is pretty much a scam artist that just is constantly trying to screw people over. According to Wowpedia, Grifta was initially located in the lower city markets of Shattrath, trying to sell his wares to unsuspecting bypassers, and early on he was standing next to Peacekeeper Jadar, who often contradicted and questioned Grifta's claims about his wares, leading to amusing conversations. But for a short time, Grifta was exiled from the city due to the endless reports of his shady business practices. However, when Zulaman was rediscovered, Grifta was let back into Shattrath. In Cataclysm, Grifta started selling his stuff at the Darkmoon Fair. In Pandaria, he was at the Grummel Bazaar and Kunlai Summit. In Draenor, he actually traveled to Draenor and sold some of his useless junk to garrison troops in Talador, and there's a standing order to rough him up a bit in order to get a refund. In Legion, he's in the Hall of Shadows, which is the Rogue Order Hall. In BFA, he travels to Dazar Alor in Zuldazar, where he sells his wares on the port of Zandalar. Somehow, he then made it into Shadowlands, where he's in the Broker's Den of Oribos, and in Dragonflight, he is found selling his amulets and other goods on the sly at the Obsidian Throne in the Waking Shores. So Grifta is easily one of the most notorious weird NPCs in World of Warcraft, and because of that, I had to put him at number 2. And number 1 is Bud Nedrek, which is obviously a play on words for redneck. And in Burning Crusade, he was the well-spoken, often snooty explorer that Grifta sent players to just outside Zulaman. Grifta's note was short and to the point. It said, "Listen up, bud. This be the last fool I send till ya pay me all ya be owing. No more stalling." So he owed Grifta a bunch of money, apparently. And so the main thing is Bud is looking for treasure, and he knows Zulaman probably has a bunch of treasure in it, and so he pretty much wants the players to go into Zulaman and do all the dirty work for him. Then, in Wrath of the Lich King, Bud and his band of treasure seekers and troll slayers have moved on to Grizzly Hills in search of new profits, but his fate at Zulaman had an unfortunate side effect, which is Bud pretty much lost his mind and thought he was a troll complete with a troll mask. His band of cohorts, not wanting to leave Bud behind, use him as troll bait by using his fragile state of mind to sick him on the local trolls of the area. Bud thought he's playing troll tag, but mostly what he was doing was knocking trolls silly with a frying pan, all while happily shouting "tag" to any he happened to hit. And then you think he's done after he thinks he's a troll and he's gone crazy, but he actually makes an appearance in Cataclysm where his ship gets sunk in Vazir at the opening sequence for that zone. He also appears in the Thistle Shrub Valley of Tanaris near the entrance of Uldum along with Adara, and Bud and the others were planning to drive a caravan into Uldum to search for artifacts, but they get ambushed by some pygmy, and Bud actually concocts a crazy plan to get the team and a Ramkahen prince out of Tolvir City, which actually works. And that's pretty much the story of Bud Nedrek. He also appears in your garrison for a little bit, whatever. But he's just a really weird NPC that has this crazy backstory, right? Like he's in Burning Crusade, he's got a note from Grifta to repay his debt, but he becomes this big thing in Zulaman where he's hunting treasure, and then he's in Wrath of the Lich King hitting trolls. He thinks he's a troll, then he's like saving everybody in Cataclysm. Like, it's so weird. And I really do think he's like one of the most notorious weird NPCs in World of Warcraft, and for that reason, he's number 1. 10. Number 10 are the Blood Venom Slime Slaves, and these can be found at Blood Venom Post in Fellwood, and these were former inhabitants and guards of the post that were mutated by the experiments of Winna Hazard. And so you can go here in Classic WoW and see all the people at Blood Venom Post without slimes on their head, and Winna Hazard is actually the one in Classic WoW that gave you the quest to turn her kitten into a corrupted cat by giving it some flasks. So she's the one responsible for all of the slime slaves currently just wandering about the forest. And strangely enough, according to Wowpedia, while the inhabitants of the original pre-Cataclysm Blood Venom Post were many different races, the slime slaves seem to only be Tauren. So I don't know why the slimes only picked Tauren, or like maybe everybody else fled or they died. Who knows? But when I saw these slime slaves, I was like, dude, what is happening? It's such a weird mob to see in World of Warcraft, and so that's why I had to put it at number 10. 9. Number 9 is a soot-stained enforcer, and he is an ogre that is just doing sit-ups. And I remember when I first saw this, I was like, wait, what? Is he just doing sit-ups? And it turns out, yeah, he's just doing sit-ups. Now, I do think it's funny, he's just kind of doing the dance animation, but they like laid him down, so it looks like he's doing sit-ups. So I think they just had a fun time with, you know, development being like, it's kind of like he's doing sit-ups. Let's just put that in the game. And he'll be saying a bunch of random quotes like, what after one? Another one. This harder than I thinked. How many's tree? And there's also an ogre just like walks over here and he's just like, yeah, he's still doing sit-ups. I even thought it was funny. If you look up the soot-stained enforcers on Wowpedia, it just says, enforcers are ogres located at the soot-stained mining camp in Frostfire Ridge. One of them is doing sit-ups. And so not only is it pretty funny, but it made me be like, what? What is happening? And so that's why the soot-stained enforcer is number 9. 8. Number 8 is Jerome, and Jerome is a blood elf that hangs outside of Silvermoon City in Eversong Woods. And I remember first seeing this guy way back when, and I was like, what is happening here? Because you talk to him and he says, finally, someone came down to talk to me. Want to hear some of my rhymes? And you can either say no, or you can say yes, in which he says, walking down the street, looking at my feet, watching the leaves fall off of the trees. And it just feels like the ramblings of a madman. It's just like, what is happening here? Who is this? And so it turns out this is actually a reference to Blizzard developers. So Brian Morris Rowe is the lead interior artist for Blizzard, and his employee Jeremy Graves is a Dungeon City artist. At least they used to be. The reason for the rhymes is due to Jeremy having a knack for karaoke, rapping to the beats of popular rappers such as Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and Eminem. And worker Morris Rowe is a blood elf in Silvermoon City trying to rebuild it, and he is with the Silvermoon Builders Association, and Jerome is his minion. So this is all just a reference to Brian Morris Rowe, who was the lead interior artist, and then his employee, who is essentially Jerome in the game. But either way, when I first saw this, I was just confused, and I was like, what? And so that's why it's number 8. 7. Number 7 is Niden, and Niden is a sea giant located in the Coral Forest in Nazjatar. And I remember first seeing Niden, and I didn't know what he was doing. I thought he was just like stirring some soup or something, and then I realized he's got this mortar and pestle, and really the mortar and pestle are just like big shells, which I think is pretty funny. But you can talk to him, and he says, Niden likes to smash things. Niden gets to do the things he likes now. And so really, he's just helping to make kelpberry wine. And later on, you say, could you please do some smashing for the kelpberry wine quest? And he says, friend leave berries, take cask, smashing is good, you should try it. And so I didn't even realize this until I looked it up, but his name is actually a reference to kneading, like when you knead dough. And I don't know why, because it seems like the definition of kneading is to work into dough or paste with hands, and he's kind of using a mortar and pestle, so I feel like he's not really kneading anything. So I don't know why they didn't go with something else. Like they should have named him Morpest for mortar and pestle. Morpest. There you go. That's his new name, Morpest. But anyway, I didn't expect to stumble upon this guy, and when I did, I was like, what's going on? And so that's why Morpest is number 7. 6. Number 6 is Naked Millhouse Manastorm. That's right. Naked Millhouse Manastorm, and he's located in Dornegal in the new big city of War Within, and he's kind of in these hidden tunnels in this weird underground cave, and you open a door and it leads to this weird Hearthstone reference tavern with bartender Bob from Hearthstone Battlegrounds, and Valera is playing against Millhouse, and there's some other characters around. And if you talk to Millhouse, he's just like, I don't want to talk about it. But if you talk to Valera, she has a quest, and she explains that she has taken Millhouse for all he's worth, so she's pretty much won all of his clothes, he's lost all of his money, and she ends up offering you the spell Tome of Polymorph Moss Wool. So it's a way to get a new polymorph as a mage. And I actually read an interesting comment on Wowhead that mentions that Millhouse Manastorm has been in every WoW expansion except Wrath of the Lich King. And so he kind of just keeps returning as a running gag character. And out of all the appearances, I think Naked Millhouse Manastorm might be one of the weirdest. And so that's why he's number 6. 5. Number 5 is Chemos, and Chemos is a steward located in Heroes Rest in Bastion. And Chemos actually changed a bit since I wanted to record him, but previously he used to just have his hammer, and so you would see him sweeping with his hammer, and you were like, wait, what is he doing? He's just sweeping with a hammer, and it was really funny. But now they've given him a broom, but he still has his hammer. So now he's actually doing work with the broom, but he still has his hammer, like, just engraved into this thing. So I don't know if the hammer is actually part of the broom now, or he's just made a broom out of the hammer. Maybe he just glued like 2 sticks on top of that. I have no idea, but it's still pretty funny. But you are able to select Chemos as your steward of Heroes Rest, and a lot of people selected him just because he was sweeping with a hammer, and I couldn't even find him for a while. It turns out I had to like do a bunch of quests, and it was dumb. I had to go back to Shadowlands. Let me tell you, Not a great experience, but we found them, we figured it out, and that's why Chemos is number 5. 4. Number 4 are the human seedlings, and the human seedlings are the unfortunate survivors of the Hillsborough fields who are now buried in the sludge fields. And there's a quest called Do the Right Thing, and it says you have come upon a horrific scene. Someone or something has buried all of the humans up to their necks in a manner consistent with planting. The ghouls, which are seemingly tending the field to human seedlings, periodically jump to the nearest human and devour its head. You can end this right here and now. Take this shovel and save the humans. And so you can go up to the human heads and you either bash their head in with a shovel or pull them out of the dirt. And this is definitely one of the things that you see for the first time and you're just like, dude, what is going on here? There are literal human heads like planted in the ground. I guess the humans are planted and the head is like they're sprouting in a way, but this is just such a weird quest. You know what I mean? I was going to put this in creepy things in World of Warcraft. I still might when I do the creepy things for Halloween, but I think the human seedlings have definitely earned their spot at number 4. 3. Number 3 are the leper gnome laborers, and these are leper gnomes located in the Sanctum in Silvermoon City. They are being forced to work by Serignano, I think that's how you say her name, Serignano, who is a succubus that essentially overlooks the entire sweatshop operation that's going on here. And funnily enough, this place is called Colleen's Trustworthy Tailoring Shop, and any place that calls themselves trustworthy is instantly untrustworthy. And by the way, Keelan's name is Keelan Sheets, which I think is a reference to clean sheets, if I had to take a wild guess. But yeah, this place is actually insane. Like, the succubus is just going up and whipping the gnomes. There's like leper gnomes in cages. They have a bunch of money and gold on the table to show that they're clearly profiting off the sweatshop work of the leper gnomes. And it's just crazy. This is not something you expect to find, I'll tell you that much. And so that's why the leper gnome laborers are number 3. 2. Number 2 is Marcus the Paladin, and Marcus the Paladin is found leaving the tent with a sleeping Taran couple in it named Tanda Freeseeker and Bax Freeseeker, and as he's walking out he says, well, that was certainly unexpected. And there's also a steamy chest on the ground of the tent next to the sleeping Taran couple. And so putting all the puzzle pieces together here, it seems like the Paladin and the Taran couple did some stuff, all right? That's all I'm gonna say. But it turns out that Marcus is actually the main character of the erotic steamy romance novel series, and Marcus has had flings with the human mage Nani, the forsaken rogue Atusa, the gnome warlock Tavi, and the Draenei Sula. And so if you want to go find any of these stories, they're all in game and they're all a part of a steamy romance novel. So if you just look up a steamy romance novel, you can probably go find all the locations, and the one for this specific scenario with the Taran is called Got Milk, and so that reason alone definitely puts this at number 2. 1. And number 1 is Jogu the Drunk, and Jogu the Drunk is a Jinyu and a member of the Tillers, but despite his near constant inebriation, he is a value member of the Tillers due to his ability to predict what crops will grow best on any given day. And when I first saw Jinyu back in the day, I was like, dude, it's just a drunk fish guy walking around and you have to buy him alcohol to help your crops grow. Like, this is this is such a weird character. Like, what's going on? But if you go around the town and talk to some people like Water Taster Cruishell, they say, our brother over there drowns his sorrows in apathy and wine instead of work and toil. Jogu's from a different tribe than us. He came far from the north and will not speak much of what led him here. And in a quest, A Gift for Jogu, Andy says, sometimes I feel sad for Jogu. He's the only Jinyu around, and I don't think he has any friends other than his smelly bottle, of course. It also seems like Jogu lost his family, because if you do the Dish for Jogu quest, he says, my family used to make this. They're gone now, but I still love this dish. And so I think a lot of people saw Jogu and they're like, he's just some drunk fish that gives you crop predictions, right? But he actually has a much sadder, depressing backstory, and he just wants friends. So I was like, you know what? The least I could do is put him at number 1 on my pointless list, and that's why Jogu the Drunk is number 1. 10. Number 10 is Chris Angler and his family, found in the Krasarong Wilds. And this is a place where everybody is fishing. There's people on the beach fishing. There's a Pandaren chilling in a fishing boat. There's a Pandaren that's meditating and fishing, which is kind of fun. And then there's his whole family, which is, you know, the kids, where I don't know if they're his actual kids or like his nieces and nephew or whoever, right? They're just fishing with him, or they're just kind of running around sitting there. And then there's the dog with the squirrel on his head, which I wish that squirrel was fishing. That would really cap this all off, but that squirrel is actually from Pointless Top 10 Squirrels, by the way. I also don't know if this Angler Chris is a reference to Chris Angel, because I mean, this is kind of Pandaria. I think that's when Chris Angel was actually popular, but I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it's just a coincidence, but I thought of that. But the other reason I put this on the list is it's just a nice relaxing area, right? You've got this beach house with the lanterns and all the fishing gear all around. You've got the sunset and the water and the trees. It's just very majestic, I would say. And then, you know, everybody's just chilling on the beach fishing. It's just a very relaxing ambient area, except for the crocodiles fighting people in the background. Ignore that. And that's why Angler Chris and friends are number 10. 9. Number 9 is Old Man Barlow, and Old Man Barlow is located at the Silmere Lake in Terrakar Forest. And Old Man Barlow is well known because he used to be the fishing daily quest giver back in Burning Crusade. And he would give you quests ranging from bait bandits to crocolisks in the city, fell blood fillet, shrimpin' ain't easy, and the one that got away. And then that would give you a bag of fishing treasures, which would contain numerous fishing treasures, as you might have guessed. There was the 2 ring, which was a reference to the One Ring, Lord of the Rings. There was numerous companions, there was a fishing hat, there's a whole bunch of stuff you could get. And I mean, Old Man Barlow's just an old man fishing. That's all he is. He's just standing there in his fishing boots with his fishing hat and his fishing gear, and he's just fishing. And there's a bunch of basilisks all around, but they don't attack him for some reason. I guess they're just like, that's Old Man Barlow. We can't attack Old Man Barlow. And so for all those reasons, that's why Old Man Barlow is number 9. 8. Number 8 is Urk, and Urk is an orc child located near the Watchtower a little north of the Crossroads in the Northern Barrens, and he has a pet wolf called Fang, and they just kind of run around this area and have a little fishing story. So he'll walk into a pile of supplies in the room, and he's like, where's my fishing hook? Oh, there it is. And then he walks to the pond, and he's just like, let's see if the fish are biting. And then he tries to see, and then he's like, I think I need better bait. And then he checks his father's wagon, and then he's like, Quillbore scraps, these should do the trick. Fish love Quillbore. And then he walks back to the pond, and then he's like, caught one. I'll see if the guards are hungry. Come on, Fang. And then he runs to the tower, and he's like, I caught a fish. And then they're like, oh my god, you bring honor to the horde, thank you. And then he's like, zug zug. And that's pretty much the Urk and Fang story. I do love how Urk, when he fishes, he doesn't even cast his fishing line. He just kind of goes up to the water and like wiggles his hands around. He's like, dude, I caught it. Like, is he doing some sort of magical fishing cast? I don't even know. And apparently Urk and Fang showed up in the Legion pre-patch invasion. I don't even remember that, but I guess it happened. So that's why Urk and Fang are number 8. 7. Number 7 are the Rustburg Village Fishermen, and the Rustburg Village Fishermen are Tauren located in the Rustburg Village in Tol Barad. And these were just really weird to me. It's just all these Tauren that look exactly the same, standing around fishing in numerous spots of the village on the docks. It's like, I don't know, I got some weird vibes from it. And apparently it's a weird thing because if you read the lore on Rustburg Village, it says it's a fishing village and port located in Tol Barad, and although of human construction, its current inhabitants belong to a number of races from both Horde and Alliance. Both leaders of Horde and Alliance refer to the residents as bandits and wackos and report that they have been picking off Alliance and Horde forces that stray too close to the village. Their actions are highly suspicious and they will attack anyone that dares enter the village walls. And I mean, they're definitely onto something because all these Tauren looking exactly the same is what freaks me out the most. Like, they're all fishing, they're all dressed exactly the same in the same outfits, they have the same like water buff swirling around them. I don't know if it's some curse that they got or some spell that they're under, but whatever it is, it's weird, and that's why they're number 7. 6. Number 6 are the Iskara fishermen located at Iskara, which is in the southwestern Azure span. And I really wanted to put some Tuskar on this list, and I was looking through all the different Tuskar villages from, Wrath of the Lich King and Dragonflight, and the reason I picked the Iskara fishermen is they have boats. And that was really the primary thing, is they got their little fishing boats, and they just cruise around fishing in the boats. And I love that. I think it's so cool to watch them just sail around. There's like the Tuskar kids in the boat fishing with the big Tuskar. It's just, they're having a great time just chilling and fishing, although I don't know how they're fishing while they're sailing, because you would think the line is like getting a little too far away from where they cast it. But listen, I don't know. They're the master fishermen. I'm just some guy that likes fishing and makes videos about it. Plus, I love this area. You've got the snow falling, you got the pine trees back there, you got the water and the ice. It's a really beautiful area. But hey, you know what? Shout out to all the other Tuskar that are out there fishing as well. But these guys, they just got fishing boats, and that's why I decided to put them at number 6. 5. Number 5 are the Gorduni ogres fishing at the Gordal Fortress in Talador. And the reason I put these on the list, especially higher up on the list, is I remember flying over this and just being so surprised that there was a bunch of ogres just chilling fishing. Like, when I think of ogres, I don't know about you, but when I think of ogres, I'm like, yeah, smash rocks, right? They're just like, oh, me do hard work, me beat you with giant stick, me go fight in war, right? I don't really think of ogres as like, come on guys, let's go fish. Like, it doesn't feel right. I don't know. I think I'm judging a book by its cover here. And you know what? I think these ogres just genuinely enjoy fishing. And I think one of them started it, and then he just told his friends, and then they started fishing, and now you've just got a whole group of ogres that are out here fishing, having a great time. And I love that. And that's why the Gorduni ogres fishing in Talador are number 5. 4. And speaking of ogres, Jack the Hammer is number 4. Although I don't think he's an ogre. I think he's a hobgoblin, right? He's something like that. But he's still a large-looking ogre man, and he has his giant mallet that he beats people with, but he has stuck a fishing pole into it, and he goes fishing with it. And I love the innovation. Just true engineering genius from Jack the Hammer. And if you don't know about Jack the Hammer, he was initially found in Kazan, and he owed the cartel money, and he was hiding out in the slums. And after that, he joins Gazlo and his grease monkeys, and currently he can be found fishing in Orgrimmar. But I chose to record him in Mechagon because this is initially where I saw him fishing with his weird fishing pole contraption. And I love the fact that when you talk to him, he says, fish here too crunchy, which I guess there's probably a lot of robot fish here and he tried to eat them or something. I don't know. It's Mechagon. I guess he could have also caught like spare parts and tried eating those, but either way, that's why Jack the Hammer and his awesome fishing innovation is number 4. 3. Number 3 are Nat Pagle and all his friends at the Angler's Wharf located off the southern coast of the Krasarong Wilds. And I chose this Nat Pagle out of all the other versions of Nat Pagle because I really like all the people at the Angler's Wharf. You've got the Tuskar guy, you've got the panda guy fishing off the dock, you've got the monkey hosen with a fishing pole, you've got the panda guy passed out with the bamboo fishing pole on top of him. You got everybody here. But obviously I had to include Nat Pagle on this list. I mean, he is one of the most famous fishermen, if not the most famous fisherman in all of Azeroth. Nat Pagle also has his own line of fishing equipment and can be found in several locations around the world, offering training to aspiring fishermen who seek him out. But he states that he has no particular interest in fishing, but has been fishing for 20 to 30 years. He also says that fishing is a great excuse to drink heavily, and therefore he enjoys an occasional drink now and then. There's also this weird thing in Old Hillsbred where Nat Pagle's fishing with Hal McAllister, the fishing vendor of South Shore, and he tells McAllister about his dreams of events that will happen in the future, like Tarn Mill being overrun by undead, Arthas killing his father, Thrall escaping from Durnhold Keep, and a bunch of other stuff that all comes true. So I don't know what Nat Pagle is, or how he has these dreams, or why he's all over the place, but he is, and that's why he's number 3. 2. Number 2 are Fenwick Thatros and Killian Sonatha, located at the Lordamere Lake Dock near the Decrepit Fields in Silver Pine Forest. And in Classic WoW, there is actually a quest to kill Fenwick and bring his head to Verimathros at the Undercity because he believed that Fenwick is the leader of the undead that have taken root in Silver Pine Forest, although he proves to just be an underling to Thule Ravenclaw. But ever since Thule Ravenclaw was removed from power, Fenwick appears to have separated himself from Thule and now tries to fish in peace and quiet. But after the Cataclysm, that quest was removed, and now Fenwick is just a rare mob located there, and when you aggro him, he just says, "All I wanted was a little peace and quiet," which does make you feel kind of bad for attacking him. On the other side, Killian Sonatha is just some forsaken vendor selling Longjaw Mud Snapper recipes and Rainbow Fin Albacore recipes, so quite the contrast between the two. And they also happen to choose a terrible place to fish, since now there's a bunch of machine guns set up here, and there's a bunch of big battles that occur, so it's really not that peaceful or quiet. They should probably go somewhere else. But that's why Killian Sonatha and Fenwick Thatros are number 2. 1. And number 1 is, of course, my NPC, Kren the Pointless. No, I'm just kidding. And number 1 is the Pandaren Deckhand located at the Soggy's Gamble in the Dread Wastes. And I had to put this at number 1 because I just love the fact that this panda guy is just carrying these giant-ass fish on his head like it's nothing. He's just walking around, he goes back over to the thing, and he's like, well, time to get more fish. And I know technically he's not like fishing, he's getting fish that have already been caught out of a crate, which somehow they're storing these fish in these crates. Like, there's some tiny little crates, and he's getting these giant fish out of them. So that's a feat in itself. But this guy is straight up taking these fish, jumping on land over to a rock, walking up a plank, going on the dock into the building, and then putting the fish away. Which, again, I don't know if he's putting it on the table or if he's putting it in one of the tiny baskets, but whatever it is, that's also insane. I also don't know how he manages to fit this fish through the door. Maybe some sort of fish magic, I don't know. And so just because he's not a, quote, fisherman, doesn't mean he's not a fisherman, right? Listen, this is a pointless top 10 anyway. I can do what I want. So that's why the deckhand carrying the big fish is number 1. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this compilation of pointless top 10s. If you want more, you can check out 3+ hours of WoW animal fact top 10s, or you can check out the latest top 10, which is loading screens. Okay? Okay. See you.